he plans to deliver for all Americans. Sinan City, a senior fellow with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. As always, we appreciate your time here at Live Now from Fox to break down the latest. Talk soon.
Thank you.
We are going to step away for a brief commercial break. We are staying on top of this story, though, any and all developments that we continue to get. I want to bring us out once again to the live images that we have over in Beirut, Lebanon. We'll be right back.
Point is that a lot of this move has been the up move in these commodities, which are priced in dollars. We think this is a short-term move in the dollar in terms of dollar appreciation. We think once this...
I am going to put on one more news source. I'm going to put on Newsmax. Good morning to nobody watching. You know what I believe I'm going to post, not post, but I'm going to share with you guys something that I haven't even watched yet, so we're going to react together. We're going to react to it together as soon as I get it pulled up here. It's actually, now I know some people have some pretty hard feelings towards Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, and that's fine. But he just made a video entitled "A Scientist's View of War." And if you know anything about me and this channel, we try and stay right down the middle as best as possible. Sometimes it's difficult. But we are going to react together with it in a little while. Not right this second. I want to wait until more people are watching, because I would love to, you know, introduce it with that theme attached to it so that nobody gets the impression that this is some sort of left shilling YouTube channel, because I am not. I'm a little slow getting moving today, just because, I took a few Benadryl before sleep last night, and every time I do, I wake up tired as hell. And I didn't really even sleep well. But I have a feeling today is going to be a very interesting day for money, baby. So far, I've got a whopping 2 people watching. One on YouTube and one on Rumble. Hey, thank you for y'all being here. Drop a comment below. Tell me where you're from. And or a ticker symbol. Because it is still early. And yeah, you're pretty much guaranteed that I'll see it and pull it up. Just
call this number now.
Call now and you'll also get this free beneficiary plan.
Shite straight. Let's listen in on Fox.
No, people are really worried about what this means for them. And look, I grew up working class in the 1970s. I remember how it feels when you're struggling to make ends meet. It's a knot in your stomach every time the bills come through the door.
Sure is.
And
Nobody
that's
knows
at
that
the
more than
forefront
me.
of my mind in meeting this crisis. So in a moment, I'll set out what we're doing to help people with the cost of living. But let me first give you an update on what we're doing in the region. We continue to work around the clock to help our people in the Middle East. As of this morning, over 92,000 British nationals have returned to the UK on commercial and government charter flights. Now that work continues, including to support British citizens in Lebanon. Our armed forces are working 24/7 to protect British lives and British interests and support our Gulf partners. We have thousands of servicemen and women in Cyprus and across the region. 3 squadrons of fighter jets working alongside counter-drone teams to intercept Iranian attacks. They are protecting our people, our bases, and our allies night and day.
Good.
And I pay tribute to all of them.
All of them.
We're also continuing our diplomatic response. The Foreign Secretary has been in the region in recent days. I'm in close contact with leaders from across the Gulf and Europe and beyond. I met Prime Minister Carney earlier this morning, and I'll be meeting President Zelensky soon, because it's vital that we continue to focus on supporting Ukraine. We cannot allow the war in the Gulf to turn into a windfall for Putin. Now, it's clear the US operation has massively weakened the military capability of the abhorrent regime in Iran. The question is, what comes next? When the fighting stops,
this is entertaining
we are
at all.
going to need some sort of negotiated agreement
We sure
to
are,
constrain
buddy.
the threat posed by Iran,
We sure
to
are,
limit
buddy.
their ability to rebuild their nuclear program, to pose a ballistic missile threat, and arm their proxy militias.
Yeah. As much as I enjoy having Fox News on, I'm not immediately concerned with the UK. But don't you know? But I want to put on some sort of news. Yeah, there we go. Let's see what Newsmax is saying.
Struggling now as a result of the Democrat.
Okay, and as usual. As per usual. For some reason, OBS just loves to mute everything before I go in and unmute it, remute it, and then unmute it, and then it comes up. I don't know why it does that. It's pretty dumb. Right, as you can see, Newsmax on the screen. I have to go in and unmute the thing. What are you doing? I don't.
$20 an hour suffer without a paycheck, who are Americans living here legally. So explain to me how that is okay. It's not okay, especially when your primary responsibility as a member of Congress is to represent those very same people.
Yeah, they're holding it hostage. We already know that.
People as leverage. Yeah. It is just patently wrong. And they
yeah. You know, I love Newsmax and all, but they have a habit of some extreme repetition. It does drive me a little bit batshit. See what Bloomberg's saying?
Crude looks like this morning. Brent after a 40% move so far this month. Brent and WTI shaping up as follows. Brent crude at the moment 103.65, just about positive by 0.5%. In the equity market on the S&P 500, holding on to gains following a 4-day losing streak, up by 0.6%. Plenty of Monday morning notes are dropping, including this from Mike Wilson over at Morgan Stanley. Lisa, the bar remains high for the oil spike to threaten the business earnings cycle, while we can't rule out modest downside in the near term. If the rate of change on crude and the dollar accelerates further, we maintain our view that this correction is closer to its ending stages in time and in price.
Yeah, they're not alone. There are others as well, including Goldman Sachs and others who have come out and said something similar, because the U.S. economy is more immunized from any kind of oil price shock to the downside. And frankly, there's a lot to like, and people keep pointing to that. We were bullish just 2 weeks ago. Do we really have to change everything all over again?
A 5% move on the S&P 500. Is that your dip? Is it time to buy? Let's get you some single names, some morning movers. Danny Berger has more. Hey, Danny.
Hey, John, I want to start with where the oil majors are trading this morning. They still are moving higher, even though NYMEX crude is to the downside this morning. Exxon and Chevron. Chevron has been up some 5% since the war started, to close Friday at a record. Exxon closed just under a record. That's up less, about 2.5%. Some of the other corporate news we are tracking: Reuters reporting that Meta plans to lay off staff. It could affect about 20% of them. The idea is to funnel those savings into AI infrastructure spending. They're going to be spending about half of their revenue on capital expenditures. So a lot of maybe efficiency Mark Zuckerberg wants to bring back to the company. Those shares up 2.5%. And then the other side of this trade is Meta signing one of their biggest ever single contracts with Nebius. This is a neo cloud. It's worth about $27 billion over the next 5 years. Nebius is going to provide them with about $12 billion worth of space in their neo cloud. So those shares moving 14.2% in the pre-market, John.
Danny, appreciate the update. More from Danny in the next hour. On our radar this morning, Apollo executive John Zito calling out, quote, arrogance in private markets and blaming the media for creating a frenzy around private credit. According to audio obtained by the Wall Street Journal, Zito believes his firm is on solid footing. Elsewhere, the president saying Iran wants ceasefire talks. Iran's foreign minister refuting those claims.
No, we never asked for a ceasefire, and we have never asked even for negotiation. We are ready to defend ourselves as long as it takes.
Tehran launching fresh attacks across the Persian Gulf as the war enters its third week. And finally, the world's largest single-site aluminum smelter is cutting output as shipping through the Strait of Hormuz stalls. Aluminum prices on the LME, the London Metal Exchange, briefly jumping to the highest level since 2022.
It's important to remember we're not just talking about crude when we're talking about the Strait of Hormuz, and the story really highlights that. Yes, it's aluminum, but as we were talking earlier and Anne-Marie mentioned, it's also about 30% of the helium, which is a key ingredient to semiconductors, also travels through there. Also 30 to 50% of the world's urea, which is a key nitrogen ingredient in fertilizer.
Yes.
Also, of course, about a quarter of LNG, liquefied natural gas. So we're not just talking about an oil shock. We're talking...
Fun fact, there is no natural source of helium on the planet. It must be created.
Energies overnight, talking about some of the production they need to unwind in some of these countries. On top of that, when it comes to countries like India and places in Asia, which is really on the front lines of getting hit when it comes to an energy shock, liquefied petroleum gas, what they use to cook their meals with. There was a story over Bloomberg over the weekend, the fact that a number of Indian weddings, these wedding venues had to go out and tell brides and grooms, we're going to have to cut back on the menu, because we cannot afford right now, where prices are, and we don't have the stock when it comes to this gas we need to make this food. It is incredible what is going on right now, and it's not just
Or
the
you can
food
reschedule
complex.
the wedding.
It's getting serious,
It's
that's
an
for
idea.
sure. I just want to issue a quick correction. I've lived here more than a decade. I love this country, forgive me. Aluminium. Every time I say aluminum, I just don't feel good. It's particularly aluminium on the London Metal Exchange.
You know,
right? Just to...
I think that it's fair. I think it's fair for
give me a
you to
pass?
say aluminium.
You'll give me whatever that was.
But it wasn't. It's aluminium.
Yeah, another fun fact. It correctly is pronounced aluminium. It's an English word. They created it. We knocked the I out. In American English, it is correct to say aluminum. However, if you want to get down to the history of the world, it was always aluminium. But I'm not calling it that. Because I'm American. Drop a like if you're an American. My one faithful watcher. Back on, we'll reheat my coffee, probably go have me a smoke. I'm glad you're here. Whoever you are, you mystery viewer, I love you. Oh, what should I put on? Any suggestions? What would you like to watch? You're the only one watching. You tell me what you want to watch, and I'll drop it. No problem.
That tell you what a government is about. My answer is clear.
I don't want to leave you with this
Whatever
jerk
the
off.
challenges that lie ahead.
I just don't care about what he's saying.
I tend to believe that, Republicans are going to run the tables come the midterms, and the framing that you've suggested here is going to carry the day. But that's not where the reality's at. And two things I'd say to you there. One, on this issue of DHS, we'll see where the blame lies. I think the solution's in the middle. People want safety. They want lack of nuisance when they go to the airport, but they also don't want what Cory Booker articulated. This militarization in our country. Yeah, we want the bad people out, but they don't want their communities upended. And on the issue of the taxation side, guys, we don't have to be geniuses here, economic rocket science, to understand the wealth gap in our lifetime has exploded. And dealing with that in some way is a bipartisan problem now. And I don't agree with what Mandami's proposing. I'm not a big fan of death taxes to begin with, and going to the 750 threshold is
Not a fan of that jackass in any
places
case.
like New York City. But that said, folks, we got to get at this because the billionaire class has taken off now, and the little people. We're part of that now, guys. We're part of that. The middle class has disappeared now. So something that's going to equalize this, and it's not just dope the rich, but it's dealing with something that's going to equalize this effort. That's a populist statement right now.
Well, you know what? My prediction in November 2026, the American people will tell the Democrats, I'm sorry, Flight 2026 is full. You have to catch another flight. Thanks so much, Bill and Melanie. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Up next, Pope Leo pushing for peace in the Middle East, the pontiff doubling down on his call for a ceasefire.
We're live from Vatican City after the break. Stay with us. First Edition. We'll be right back.
Jen Spark, give me the day off. I'm skipping work today. You should too, Stu.
And if I can ever filter out commercials, I will, because even though they're technically who pays me, right? Ugh, you again. Wonder what old Schwab is saying. Let's see, shall we? Oh. Let's put on some Schwab.
Ready to tackle your trading questions, no matter how complex. Plus, get 24/7 live help and access support by phone, email, and in-platform chat. Trade brilliantly with Schwab.
Intern, this place is incredible.
It's where I get all your office supplies.
I'm probably going to play that that clip I mentioned. Probably going to play that just as soon as there's maybe a couple of more people watching. Right now there's only 2. One on YouTube and 1 on Rumble. I do thank you for being here, but if that's what you came for, it's coming. Ah, he left. Alright. I'm going to go have a smoke. When we come back, I will play that video and see what Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson says about war. I am curious to see what up. But I will leave you with... I guess I'm going to leave you with live now with Fox, even though they're in commercial. Just because everybody else either goes into commercial too often or they're just repeating themselves.
Just before the commercial break, we were listening in to British Prime Minister Keir Starmer as he was making some comments, held a news conference earlier today amidst this conflict happening in the Middle East. And next, he does take questions from reporters.
And now I will take some questions. And I think, Chris Mason, I'm starting with you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Chris Mason, BBC News. Given the frequency of huge government interventions in recent years after the pandemic and the war in Ukraine,
you know what? I just noticed
where that's left the public finance.
That says live now from Fox, but I think I might be on the wrong one because Caroline Levitt is speaking on another one, unless that's old. Let me see. Yeah, I think that's from yesterday or something. Yeah, whoops. Never mind. But that was concerning, unless they've got two live streams going at the same time, which they might. They just might. Okay. Alright. Ran in here unnecessarily. I guess the other TV's got something ridiculous on it. Something old, I mean. Alright, I shall return.
Put in place at the budget and then a cap and a fuel duty through to September. And the announcement today in relation to those that heat their homes through oil, which is a big issue in rural communities and a very big issue in places like Northern Ireland, putting that in place straight away. As to what might happen in 3 months or 6 months, I'm not going to stand here and pretend to you that we all know what the situation will be in 3 or 6 months' time. We don't. The best way through this is to de-escalate and reduce the conflict, because that is the simple, most effective way to deal with the cost of living, and that's where we're putting our all of our focus. But look, you heard what I said about my instinct, and obviously we'll always do whatever we can in relation to the cost of living for working people. Thank you, Chris. Robert, I think I'm coming to you next.
Robert Beston, ITV. President Trump wants you to commit the Royal Navy now to keeping the Straits of Hormuz open. I think you're saying no to that. Is that right? And then, separately, you'll have seen the picture that ITV published of Epstein with Mandelson and the former Prince Andrew in their dressing gowns. Why, in Jonathan Powell's words, did you rush that appointment, given that Karen Pierce was prepared to stay for a few months, and that's what the US president wanted? Let me deal with the Straits of Hormuz, because obviously that's one of the pressing issues of the day. It's something I discussed with President Trump yesterday on the phone. There have been discussions going on in relation to a viable plan. We want to make sure that that involves as many partners as possible. That's been our stated objective here, particularly talking to European partners, inevitably talking to Gulf partners and to the US, because we need a credible, viable plan if we can. And as I said a moment ago, this is, to say the least, not easy. It is not straightforward, and therefore we have to make sure that we've got that credible plan in place. As to what the precise options are, as I say, mine hunting systems of ours are already in the region. We've already spoken about what we can do in relation to anti-drone capability. But this isn't just about what the UK can do, it's about how we play a part in bringing others together behind a viable plan. So that's where we're at the moment. Well, we're looking through the options. It is difficult, of course, it's difficult. There's no hiding that. But that's what we're working on in terms of a viable plan, because ultimately we need to get the Straits opened, otherwise the price of energy will remain very high for reasons that everybody understands. So it's part and parcel of what we're doing on the cost of living. In relation to Mandelson, look, the independent advisor has looked at the tail end of last week at the process we went through, and he said it was the proper process. Look, the process wasn't strong enough, and that's why
last year, I moved to strengthen the process, and will strengthen it again. My reflection is the process wasn't strong enough. The process was followed, but was the process strong enough? No, it wasn't. Now, I recognise that back in September, when the Bloomberg emails came to light, and it was then that I started the process of strengthening it, and will continue to do so. Thank you, Robert. Beth, can I come to you?
Yeah, thank you.
We're listening in here as UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is taking some questions from the press after holding a news conference earlier on today. We'll be right back. Taking us back out to more comments made by British Prime Minister Keir Starmer earlier today at a news conference.
To you.
Yeah, thank you. Beth Rigby, Sky News. Prime Minister, people are worried sick at the prospect of their energy bills going up by £300 or more after June. The Conservative government back in 2022 capped bills for all households through an energy price cap. It cost about £40 billion. You're not going to do this, are you? Can you just level with people that wealthier households are going to have to suck some of this up? And on the Mandelson files, your National Security Advisor said the process was, quote, weirdly rushed. And Mandelson was appointed before developed vetting had been complete. You told MPs in the House of Commons that due process was followed. Is there a possibility that you have misled the House when you said that? Thank you.
No, and the independent advisor looked at that very question, I think, on Thursday or Friday of last week, and answered it very robustly that the process had been followed. The process wasn't strong enough. And amongst the changes that I intend to put into place is the fact that you can't announce someone until the vetting is finished. It wasn't an individual decision in the Mandelson case, that was the process. Well, you only have to look at that in the light of the appointment to realise that that needs to change. But on due process, the process that was there was followed. The problem was the process wasn't strong enough. But ultimately, it was my mistake, and I have apologised for that, and quite right too. In relation to the wider point about energy bills, because I do know how worried people will be about this, and as I said, I've been to a number of community centres across the country where you can feel that, and I'm not surprised. We're not ruling anything out, but it is very difficult to say at this juncture what the position will be in July, which is when the current energy cap runs out, or what the position will be in September. And obviously our focus at the moment is de-escalating, dealing with the straits, and trying to find a way to limit the impact. My instinct is always to help working people in a situation like this, hence the energy price cap that we put in place. In fact, reducing energy bills, which is one of the measures at the budget, and making sure that is held until June. The work we've done on those that heat their homes through oil, which was a real cause for concern, particularly in the tail end of last week when people were beginning to fill up their tanks and they could feel for themselves. And this is an area where, in addition to what we can do through the money we've been putting in today, whether it's that or petrol, I'm absolutely determined to clamp down on anybody who may think of ripping others off in a situation like this. I've heard too many stories of deliveries being cancelled in order for the price to go up. Have to clamp down on that sort of ripping off. But I'm not going to say to you now, because so much is unknown, what we might do in July. We are going to have to do what we can do now to de-escalate, keep this all under review. And as soon as it's necessary to say anything further, I will obviously do so. But it's simply not sensible to say that in a number of months' time, not knowing what the situation will be, that the following will be ruled in or ruled out. So that's the approach that we're taking. Thank you, Beth. Can I go to Andy at Channel 5?
Thank you, Prime Minister. Andy Bell, 5 News. So initially you said no to the President when he wanted to use UK bases for the first wave. It feels like now you're saying no again to sending certainly any kind of shipping to open up the Gulf. Are you basically saying to him, there is no military way of opening up the Straits of Hormuz, we have to go for de-escalation? And presumably you must be getting worried now that your relationship with the President is getting pretty frayed.
Well, just to go through this in order, I said no to get involved in the initial offensive action and getting drawn into the war. And I stand by that decision. As I said a moment ago, many people criticised me heavily for that decision and indicated that they would have rushed into the war, only, in my view, for them to backpedal a week or two later when they saw the consequences of what action they would have taken had they been Prime Minister. In relation to the defensive action, whether it's what we're doing in the region, have been doing since the few hours after the conflict started, or whether it's the use of our bases, that is in collective self-defence of our people in the region and our bases. The Strait of Hormuz is then a separate discussion, and it is a discussion. We're not at a point of decisions yet, and I want to really stress that. It is obviously a difficult question, that goes without saying, in relation to how you safeguard maritime traffic through the straits. Everybody knows the geography and the risks, but we are working and discussing that with the US, with Gulf partners and with the Europeans, and I discussed that yesterday with President Trump in the way we often discuss things. So that's where we're at on that. There are no decisions having been made. It'll have to be something which is agreed by as many partners as possible, is my strong view. And we're not at that stage yet, but we are working hard. I discussed it with President Trump yesterday in the way that you would expect between two allies and two leaders. And as soon as there's more to report, I will make sure that you have that. Thank you, Andy. I've got Chris Hope from GB News. Chris.
Thank you, Prime Minister. GB News viewers are very
We're listening in as British Prime Minister Keir Starmer earlier today held a news conference in which he took questions from the press discussing the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. We do have to step away for a quick commercial break, but we'll continue with more of the day's top stories when we come back. Thank you all for joining us here at Live Now from Fox on this Monday. It's March 16th. My name is Karala Hara, and I'm here to bring you all of your breaking news updates. Specifically, we are focusing on the latest developments in the Middle East, and we do have an update coming in from U.S. Central Command. Taking a look here at a social media post from CENTCOM, it says update from CENTCOM Commander on Operation Epic Fury. Let's listen in.
Hi, I'm Admiral Brad Cooper, the commander of U.S. Central Command, here to provide another update on Operation Epic Fury. First, I want to remember and honor our fallen warriors who made the ultimate sacrifice in the KC-135 refueling aircraft incident last week. We hold their memories and their families, their friends and their teammates in our prayers. Their selfless service and dedication hardens our resolve. For 16 days, we've delivered overwhelming firepower deep into Iran. This past Friday, U.S. forces executed a large-scale precision strike on Karg Island, destroying more than 90 Iranian military targets, including storage bunkers for naval mines and missiles and other military infrastructure. To date, our Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps aviators have collectively flown more than 6,000 combat flights, demonstrating the unmatched capability of America's joint force as we maintain air superiority over Iranian skies. We continue to remain centered on our military objectives. These are well-defined and include eliminating Iran's ballistic missiles, drones, and naval threats. It's one thing to defend by striking launchers and intercepting missiles and drones, but it's another thing to eliminate the wider manufacturing apparatus behind them. And we are doing that today. We've talked about it in concept. Here's what it looks like in reality. Let me show you, for the first time, a few examples of how we are dismantling Iran's defense industrial base, which will prevent threats to the region into the future. Here you see a photo from March 1st of a naval drone storage facility located near the Strait of Hormuz. This is the same location 8 days later, completely destroyed. Next, here's a photo taken of an attack drone production factory in Tehran on March 5th. Here's that same factory 6 days later after a devastating barrage of U.S. airstrikes. And finally, the Yazdi military depot, pictured here last month. These 8 buildings are part of the IRGC's missile command infrastructure and are used to produce light and heavyweight torpedoes. Now, here's that same military depot just last week, or what's left of it. U.S. and partner strikes are doing exactly what they are intended to do: deliver on very clear military objectives to eliminate Iran's ability to project power against Americans and against its neighbors. We're also zeroed in on dismantling Iran's decades-old threat to the free flow of commerce through the Strait of Hormuz. Through a combination of air, land, and maritime capabilities, we have successfully destroyed over 100 Iranian naval vessels, and we aren't done. We will continue to rapidly deplete Iran's ability to threaten freedom of navigation in and around the Strait of Hormuz. Our progress remains steady, and we remain vigilant against the enemy. Now, a few thoughts about Iran. Over the last 2 weeks, they have launched attacks on Oman, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Jordan, Cyprus, Turkey, Azerbaijan, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Iraq, Kuwait, and Bahrain. In each of these countries, they are deliberately attacking innocent civilians. They've done this more than 300 times, which demonstrates their true nature as a global leader of terror. In just the last few days, the Iranian regime launched a reckless attack against civilian neighborhoods in Tel Aviv with cluster bombs, an inherently indiscriminate type of munition. We join countries across the region in condemning this aggression, and we stand shoulder to shoulder with our partners in bolstering our own defenses. In sum, I will reinforce what I said before. Iran's capabilities are declining as our capabilities and advantages continue to build. And finally, I'd like to talk about the extraordinary 50,000 Americans who are deployed across the region executing this vital mission. It's long been my belief that every success we have begins and ends with our people. And today I'd like to recognize our unsung heroes, the sustainers enabling America's joint force to unleash this devastating firepower 24/7. To be clear, there's no other military on earth that does logistics like the U.S. military, and our team is at the top of their game today. They're managing distribution networks that span thousands of miles to ensure that munitions, fuel, and supplies reach warfighters on the front line on time, every time. To all our sustainers and logisticians, thank you and keep up the great work. And to the entire Operation Epic Fury team, keep pushing, remain steady, fight to win. Thanks so much and Godspeed.
And that video was just posted by U.S. Central Command just moments ago on their social media pages. It was an update on Operation Epic Fury. Bringing us out to the live image that we have over in Beirut, Lebanon, I just want to recap some of the major sticking points given this conflict there in the Middle East. Now, President Trump has said that he has demanded that about 7 countries send warships to keep the Strait of Hormuz open. We also continue to have a live image, this radar system showcasing some of the activity there in the strait right now. Now, the president says that the U.S. is negotiating with countries that are heavily reliant on Middle East crude to join a coalition to police that waterway. It also comes as Gulf Arab states, including the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Bahrain, reported new missile or drone attacks after Iran called for the evacuation of 3 major points in the UAE. Major ports, excuse me. It's the first time it has threatened a neighboring country's non-U.S. assets. Also, Dubai International Airport has gradually resumed some flights after a drone struck a fuel tank, causing a fire. Authorities said it was quickly contained and no injuries were reported. I want to go out to some of the latest breaking news and headlines from here, specifically in the U.S., and we are going to be talking about air travel. Now, we know that a lot of this air travel was disrupted when this conflict in the Middle East first broke out over 2 weeks ago now. But still, other major points that are affecting travelers at this time are contained here in the U.S. This is a live image that we have over at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport in Atlanta, Georgia. So it's not just the Middle East, but also the partial government shutdown that has people really seeing some of those effects at the airport. Joining us now to talk a little bit more about this is John Rose. He's a Chief Risk and Security Officer at Altour, and he joins us this morning. Good morning, John.
Good morning.
So there's a lot to get to here. I know that we're talking about 2 kind of separate issues here, the war in the Middle East, also the partial government shutdown. But let's just start with this. When we're seeing all of these backups at airports and all of these videos coming out of these TSA lines being so long, flights being canceled, flights being delayed, how much of that is contributed to the conflict in the Middle East versus the partial government shutdown that we are currently in?
Well, I think it's probably over 90% directly related to the TSA not being funded because of the calling in sick or the just overwhelming challenges when you have any disruption in the amount of employees who come to work, because you're having TSA agents also resign their positions. The conflict in the Middle East obviously puts additional eyes on our security system to make sure that everyone is safe while traveling. So inherently, there's going to be more scrutiny on the security at the airports to keep us all safe. So that also will slightly slow down the system, but nothing as much as the challenges with the TSA agents having fewer staff because of calling in sick or the just lack of staff through resignation.
Let's stay with this TSA then. We have a social media post courtesy of Homeland Security. They say shockingly long lines at Fort Lauderdale International Airport. Security lines in Fort Lauderdale stretched out the door this morning as Democrats continue to force our patriotic TSA officers to work without pay for the 3rd time in nearly 6 months. Now, John, I've had you on the program before for a similar issue, another partial government shutdown that affected TSA workers and just operations as a whole at the airport. Now, because this is not the first shutdown that's had this major impact, what contingency plans do airports and airlines have in place? Have they made any changes since we have seen, many of these situations happen before?
Well, they have, but the reality is there isn't thousands of backup TSA agents to do this work. So the challenge is to the airlines, they want their passengers on the airplane, of course. But if half the people aren't there at the gate, the airlines may be inclined to delay a flight, to wait for people to get there, because they're not interested in flying empty planes, but that creates a ripple in the entire system because that plane then is late for its next flight. So those connections have a challenge, and it may delay its next departure, because if anyone looks at the air travel system, so maybe you track your plane the day before. Where is my plane? Is it going to be impacted by weather? A lot of customers do that, and they'll see that that plane may have 8 flights that day. Well, if any one of those is delayed, there's a ripple in the system. But when the lines get extremely long, and remember, this time of year, the TSA lines are long naturally. This is spring break. So you have a very high influx of travelers over a long period of time. This isn't like Thanksgiving where it's just 1 or 2 days and you have this mass influx, and that's much easier to plan for. You have 6 weeks of spring break, and you have a lot of travelers who are not road warriors. They don't necessarily have TSA pre-check, or they're traveling in a mode that isn't as fast as they normally do because they have more bags. They might check more bags. They may have more things they're going to bring through security, which just naturally takes time because they're going on vacation to enjoy themselves on spring break. And that naturally creates delays at the airports this time of year. And then when you throw any kink in the system, such as the agents not being paid, so they're working with fewer staff, it creates a great challenge in the system. As mentioned, at many airports there were extremely long lines, and that's just not very good for the system.
So when you watch out for these impacts, really I think that the one thing people have in mind, and to your point that you just mentioned, we are in spring break, so we have a lot of people that plan to travel during this time of year for this vacation. They want to go visit family, friends. I think the number one thing that a lot of people are thinking is, then what do I do? Should I expect to just try to cancel this trip? I mean, how do you really prepare when a lot of things are out of people's controls? I mean, we didn't know we were going to be in a partial government shutdown. We didn't know this conflict would erupt in the Middle East. So what would be your best advice to someone who's just unsure about how to navigate this?
Well, there's 2 pieces to it. One, monitor everything closely yourself. There's nothing wrong with looking at the websites for the airports and what are the average wait times at TSA. They post this for the airports the day before, 2 days before, so you get a feel. How long is the line at the airport in San Diego? If it's long at all, it might not be. And then the day of, check it, because just leaving a bit early to go to the airport, that's not a big deal. Like I tell everyone, get to the airport early. If security works perfectly, you get to the gate early and you sit down and read a book. I've said this countless times in these types of interviews. There's nothing wrong with that. Getting there 90 minutes prior to your flight and the line's 90 minutes long at TSA has just ruined everyone's start to their vacation or return from their vacation. So plan. Also work with your travel advisor, because you might need to extend the length of time you have in your connection and move to a different flight. So if you had a 45-minute connection, which a lot of travelers do, that's a reasonable connection time, especially in certain airports, they might say, oh, why don't I extend that to 2 hours? Because I want to make sure if my flight lands a little late, but that other flight's going to leave on time, that my family's going to make it, because we're trying to go to Cancun or wherever we're going. I'm not picking on a destination. You're going somewhere to enjoy spring break, or you're still a business traveler going somewhere to conduct commerce on behalf of your company. So plan ahead, and like I've said it many times before, practice patience but with empathy. Remember, these TSA agents, they make $35,000 to $50,000 a year and they're not getting paid. And believe it or not, this fiscal year, they've now had more non-paid days than paid days. Now, they may get back pay. Back pay doesn't pay the bills right now. So they've got other stressors on their system, and be patient with that, please.
Speaking of that too, obviously you had mentioned that please keep track with your specific airline, with what specific flight you are taking. Always be prepared. Check in ahead of time before you head to the airport. I'm wondering though, when we look at these different hubs for airports, we have big international airports, we have some that are more regional and smaller. Are we seeing the same kind of impacts based off this partial government shutdown to both of those kind of comparable hubs, larger ones and smaller ones alike?
Not as much, but it's just simple math. The larger ones handle so many more travelers. When you have that impact of any type of delay, there's a much larger group that's going to be impacted, and the delays are longer. And I was reading the delays just yesterday. You know, standard TSA are where the lines are long. TSA pre, especially TSA pre-touchless, which is fantastic on how fast you can get through the system with that. Those lines tend not to be near as long, but as mentioned, you've got a lot more travelers without TSA traveling right now. That's just natural in the spring break season, taking your family with you. And those lines are much longer. So, you know, there's not a lot you can do to shorten the line. What you can do is go earlier and plan ahead accordingly.
John, I want to go back to this conflict in the Middle East because obviously a lot of the impacts with TSA, those lines, it has to do with the partial government shutdown here. But going back to, I want to bring us out to a live image that we do have over in Beirut. And I want to talk about really what the process looks like when, for example, we have airspace closures across different parts of the world, but obviously some of these planes have to connect and get travelers through other areas of the world. How quickly does air traffic control pivot when those major changes happen really in the blink of an eye?
Well, of course, they're going to look at the safety first. So if they need to close corridors, cancel flights, etc., they do that very, very fast. But the other thing that happens is when a corridor becomes safe, they will open it as quickly as possible. But remember, you have to get airplanes in positions. You have to let people know it's open so they can get to the airport. And we've seen an extraordinary situation evolve in the Middle East where so many airlines have been so accommodating to move around their flights and adjust the schedules so that where it's safe, they're getting the planes out as fast as they possibly can. But because of those closures in corridors, a lot of flights are taking a lot longer simply because the route is different. So what used to be a 9-hour flight is now 11 because the corridor isn't open and they're taking a much longer route. And I just encourage travelers, obviously they want to have their free movement within the system, but to clearly understand what does this mean now and what does that mean for my potential connection at a certain airport, because when most people take those long haul flights, they're landing in one or two major hubs in the world for their particular destination and which they have to connect to.
John, you've offered several pieces of advice to people who may be traveling within this week or, you know, really in the coming weeks. A lot of these external factors, we don't know when they're going to end, including conflicts there in the Middle East, this DHS government funding issue that Congress is working on. But before I let you go, is there anything else you feel that you have to add for our viewers, those that are looking to travel, those that are waiting for family members that are possibly going to travel? What should they keep in mind as we continue to watch this?
Well, the biggest thing is people want information. They want to know what's going on. That's really it. Because if you got to go to the airport an hour early, most people don't get mad. They just plan for it. So get the right information so that you understand what's really going on. And that's why I often mention talk to your travel advisor, talk to the experts who can give you the guidance on what you need to do.
Yeah, easier said than done, getting the right information. Good morning, everybody. How are we doing this morning? Drop a like if you would. It really helped me out. Really helped this teeny tiny little itty bitty channel out. Before we go too far, I'm going to go ahead and play this video that I found. I have not reacted to yet. I haven't seen it. I haven't watched it. It's old Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about war. I'm assuming this war. He just recently posted this, and I'm curious to see how he bun.
Ever since we've recorded the history of...
There he is. I'm going to need to adjust a little bit. There we go. Where are you? I'm going to back it up. Don't worry, because I can't hear nothing. Let's back this up.
So let's go way back when it's just fisticuffs.
All right.
What's the most damage I could do? I can, like, maybe harm one person, possibly kill one person at a time. Now I have a bow and arrow. I'm one person and I can take out 10 people at a time. Notice this ratio is getting steeper and steeper. I now have a gun. Actually, it's a musket gun initially. I could take you out at 50 yards. I don't even know what you look like and I can kill you. Then I have automatic weapons. One person can take out 20 people. You reload, take out another 20. A missile. You fire a missile. I can take out hundreds of people. War continues to, quote, advance. What else can I have? Oh, bombs. Yes. So now one person can kill thousands. Once you have an airplane, you can fly over someone's head. It renders the trench warfare obsolete. Airplanes can go over cities. You drop bombs on people's heads, whether or not they're combatants. So now you just make more and more powerful bombs. Now the bombs are no longer just explosives, like with gunpowder or anything. It's nukes, nuclear weapons, a birth at the end of the Second World War.
All right, get to the point,
Now,
Neil.
one person flying an airplane can kill tens of thousands, even millions. Tens of thousands initially with the atom bomb. These are the fission bombs that split uranium and plutonium atoms into lighter atoms, releasing energy in the process. Those were the two bombs over Nagasaki and Hiroshima. The first and only two times nuclear weapons were used in warfare. The bombs over Nagasaki and Hiroshima were like 20 kilotons, something like that.
15.
Kilotons. What unit is that? We don't have a way to measure the energy of atomic bombs, so you measured in terms of what the previous explosive powers were.
Yes.
TNT. TNT's dynamite. Discovered by Alfred Nobel, by the way, got rich, put in money to create the Nobel Prize. Kilo is 1,000, we all know. Ton is a ton. 1,000 tons of TNT. Not just one stick of dynamite, thousands of tons. You take that, ignite it in an instant. You incinerate everybody below you. And we have magnified the power of that weapon by 100. We call them hydrogen bombs, just the way the sun makes energy, taking hydrogen atoms, bringing them together to make helium atoms. That also releases energy, way more energy than you'd get by fissioning heavy atoms. No longer is it kilotons, it's megatons.
Yep,
Not just thousands of tons of TNT, millions of tons of TNT. Now, one person who pushes a button or has a rocket to deliver ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missiles. I can sit here in the comfort of my chair, control a missile on my sovereign land. It'll enter suborbital because it leaves our atmosphere. It can't travel that far without resistance through the air. It leaves our atmosphere, goes its distance, comes back out of the sky, hits its target. You can kill 1 million people.
Yep.
Clearly, that's a highly unstable situation. Because now we are beholden to the sanity of anyone who has access to that button. Given the neurodiversity of our species, not everyone has the rational capacity to make a decision that would be in the interest of the world's health, wealth, and security.
Well, nobody can agree
I'm old
that
enough to remember MAD, mutual assured destruction. It was the realization that if there's a first strike, while the weapons are airborne, spaceborne, while they're leaving the atmosphere, that's enough time for you to launch your weapons. If the country wants to really get at you, they'll attack you and your allies. So now everybody starts launching weapons. If you have total nuclear exchange and you ignite the forests and the vegetation of the world, this converts living plant tissue into carbon soot that goes into the air, blocking sunlight. This was the famous nuclear winter that was described in the early 1980s. Computing power was just becoming good enough to address the question of what happens if you darken the skies all around the world. The temperature of the earth drops. Plants that depend on sunlight die. Animals that depend on plants die. Animals that depend on animals that depend on plants die in sequence. And you have nuclear holocaust, not only affecting earth life, but plant life and other animal life as well. The nuclear winter scenario, it assumed that the weapons would be equally distributed on Earth's surface. That's generally not how this works. If you're launching nukes, you're going to launch it at the missile silos that might have other nukes that haven't launched yet. And you're going to launch it towards cities with multiple nukes coming into the same city. So you won't get the spread that initial calculation had presumed. But what it did do was birth an entire science of long-term climate modeling from assaults on the environment. And out of that, we got to have great confidence that the dinosaurs were taken out by an asteroid the size of Mount Everest that struck the Yucatan Peninsula off of Mexico, cast dust into the air, plunging Earth into darkness, rendering 70% of all species of life on Earth and in the ocean extinct. The world quickly realized how deadly this is. It's not just a bow and an arrow, it's not just fisticuffs. It is an asymmetry in warfare that had never been seen before. I'm reminded of a quote from Albert Einstein. I don't know how World War III will be fought, but I know that World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. That's where war and the science of war has taken us. Scientists have...
Peter Piper's pepper picking proved painful. So he ordered the supplies he needed from Amazon Business. Peter Piper picked peppers, but rhyme, and positively prospered. Amazon Business, your partner for smart business buying.
Historically been...
I am sorry, the commercial. Bastards.
Ingenuity and creativity of scientists and engineers of all stripes. You know, where do you get chemical weapons from? You go to the chemist. Bio warfare, you go to the biologist. The astrophysicist, we don't make bombs, we don't know, but we care about multispectral imaging in dark places. We care about coordinates on Earth and in the heavens. We care about timing. What is a physicist an expert at? It's matter, motion, and energy. And what is a military battle of any kind? It's, I have energy over here, and I want to put it over there. It could be, I have a bullet here sitting in my gun, but I want to put that bullet over there with energy that I give it. I have a bow and arrow. I pull the string, pumping potential energy into the bow. When I let go, the bow springs forward, the arrow goes, sending kinetic energy over here to over there. That is the basis of essentially every military conflict. There is no war that is won without the exploitation of science and technology at its center. A little bit about me and my history. I grew up in the 60s and 70s. All I ever knew was the Vietnam War. I grew up in an era where war is bad.
Can we go to more?
How could war ever be good? But meanwhile, I'm still observant, and I look around town, and there's statues to war heroes, military servicemen standing proud. And I said, how is it that I could think war is bad, where apparently at all these other times, not the time coincident with the Vietnam War, but at all these other times, war was commemorated with pride, and dare I say, even celebrated. That's what kind of Memorial Day and Veterans Day is all about. You are celebrating those who fought in wars and commemorating those who died in wars. This is a celebration, a recognition. Whereas in the Vietnam era, there was none of that. So that's where I was forged. My sense of war was forged. But my rational mind was saying, what is the rest of this about? There are occasions where, yeah, war is necessary. A bad actor rises up whose interests do not comport with what we might think of as civilization, the preservation and prolonging of civilization as we have built it and as we have come to embrace it. Easily, who comes to mind, of course, is Adolf Hitler. Yes, there are times when you are fighting evil forces, but you have to ask who defines who's evil.
Subjective.
In starting and making a war,
Very
not
subjective.
the right is what matters, but victory. The strongest has the right.
It's hard to argue against the idea that to protect freedom is a good thing. And the fact that freedom isn't always free. It reminds me, I saw a comic long ago where two people are facing each other with a bow and arrow pointed right at each other's necks. And each one says at the same time, the harder I pull, the safer I feel. It's like, really? As a scientist, when we disagree with one another, we might argue our case vociferously. Some people are a little more emotionally invested in their ideas than others. So it can get heated. But at the end of the day, you know what we say to each other? We need more data. When more data come in and then it resolves the conflict, then we agree, go out, have a beer, and then move on to the next frontier question. That's the brain wiring of a scientist. It's not the brain wiring of politicians or many other sort of sectors of society where they need to interact with others. I've had some exposure to military operations, and I never served in the military, not as a soldier, but I did serve on a board of the Pentagon, the Defense Innovation Board. It was an attempt to alert the military that the strength in armies going forward, the strength of nations going forward, is not measured by how many soldiers are on the ground.
They'll listen, but
even
they're not
necessarily
going to.
measured by how many nukes you have in your silos.
They're going to do what they want.
It can be measured by how clever you are with either computing or calculations or strategies that come from a place that's not just how big is your weapon. You look at the reasons why people have fought wars over the years. A common one is access to limited resources. I want what you have. I need what you have. Oh, you're not going to share it? You're not going to give it to me, therefore I'm going to take it. Well, you can only do that. You can only threaten to do that if you have the resources. The financial resources, the scientific resources, the engineering resources. Other reasons why people fight with limited access to resources, yes. Religion. Again, I come to it as a scientist. If there's a batch of scientists over there who say, E doesn't equal MC squared, E equals MC cubed. Are we going to go to war over that? No. I would say, no, let me show you why that is not true. And I would demonstrate it with experiments and examples. That doesn't work as well when you have belief systems. If you come from a belief system, then what you believe doesn't have the evidence that science would normally require to establish what is objectively true. That's why they're called belief systems, because you believe that something is true. Now, you may believe it so strongly that you know it's true, but that's an internal emotion that you carry. Belief systems are such that it may be true for you, but it's not really true for other people unless you convince them of it. And since it's based on belief, rational arguments tend to not work. You need methods of coercion or force.
Propaganda.
Ultimately, threat of violence, perhaps even threat of death. And so some of the most violent encounters civilization has ever had with itself is when one warring faction has a belief system that differs from that of their adversary. It's interesting to ask of ourselves in society, is there anything you would die for? You get one chance in life. What I have found is that the less tangible the thing is you're fighting for, the more abstract it is, the less evidence there is in support of it, the more willing people are to die for it. And so war always seems to be this glorious thing at the beginning. And then the body bags start coming back. And not only military casualties, but civilian casualties, just trying to live their lives, who are now susceptible to decisions made by people in power, who generally are not themselves the same people who go do the fighting. I find that dismaying, just being human in civilization as a scientist. But it's real, and it happens, and that's how the world is put together. With or without the League of Nations coming out of the First World War, with or without the United Nations after the Second World War, with charters that are signed, Geneva Conventions. At the end of the day, you can ask the question, can we just all get along? Let me end on a slightly more positive note. All the UFOs people have been seeing in the sky, lights that we can't explain, I'm glad some part of the military budget is going to investigating them.
Same.
Because people have been seeing them for decades. I've never seen anything that I couldn't identify. I know a lot about weather and climate and sky conditions and planets and moons and what they do.
You've never seen anything
and
you
weird
couldn't
things
identify?
that they do.
Really?
So I've never seen anything I couldn't explain.
Oh, really?
So it was all IFOs to me.
Really?
But maybe some of these UFOs would pose a danger to us. Again, to our health, our welfare, or our security. Maybe. So I'd want the military to check it out.
Yeah.
And if it's a threat from space, maybe the greatest task of all would be to protect Earth from aliens. In fact, in the 1980s, President Reagan, addressing the UN, said just that.
Yeah.
He said, here we are with all of our differences. He was still in the Cold War, by the way. With all of our differences, imagine how close we would be together if we had to fight a common enemy, such as an invader from space.
Yeah.
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat
about that
to make us recognize this common bound.
If that's what it takes for us to get along, I guess so. But I still believe, I believe in the power of conversation.
Same.
And the power of coexistence. Because that's what makes a beautiful world. That we can all be different, but yet all be together.
That'd
with
be
common
nice.
causes, common goals that are sensible, rational, sane, and will feed the future of our health, our wealth, and our security.
That would be nice.
Thanks for listening.
Well, what does everybody think about that? Now, I know there's a lot of people who firmly believe that Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson is just a shill for the left. I know that there is that mode of thinking. I'm not entirely convinced that that's true, but he definitely does lean in a particular direction. However, since I take in multiple sources of news, regardless of what direction they lean in, because I have to keep an eye on those, even if I disagree with them. I have to keep an eye on them, keep them honest, if I'm the best I can, But I watched Bill Maher in particular, because he's an interesting case. He's always been a liberal, an old school liberal as he would define it himself. And here lately, he has stood firmly on the side of common sense and called out some of the left's hypocrisy and BS, which, hey, I'm glad somebody on that side's doing it, because you can name one late night or morning show in the liberal media. Name one that actually stays fair and isn't biased. At the end of the day, yes, he is a liberal at heart, and he does tend to lean that way with the few biases that he has. But I'm happy to see they're growing fewer and fewer. If you didn't see the video of him laying a trap for old Adam Schiff on his show. Oh, that was just glorious. That was amazing. To summarize it, he just basically said something that sounded like it was going on right now, and Adam Schiff immediately was like, yep, blah, 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 because he assumed it was Trump he was talking about. Turned out he was talking about Obama. I love that Bill Maher does that. He's one of the very, very, very few liberal media people that stays fair and honest, for the most part. Now, Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson was on his show, and Bill Maher couldn't get Neil to say something very easy. He couldn't get him to admit something. I think it was something about trans women, aka men, being in sports, and he couldn't get Neil to say something, even though he clearly agreed. He couldn't get him to say the words, which, you know, I find highly hypocritical. However, you know, Neil's a public figure, and he has his grant money to look out for him, right? And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. So, I mean, I can't blame him, but at the same time, I can damn sure find it highly screwed up, for lack of the real words I want to use. Anyway, at the end of the day, what did that message from Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson give us? Not much. I mean, he mainly talked about the history of war, which added some needed context, of course. Nice music in the background to stir those emotions, right? I'm pretty sure at the end of the day, his message overall was war is bad. And sure, it sucks. It really does. It's a damn shame. But I don't know about you, and even though it's not the official narrative of the right, the liberation of Iran's women, for me, that's enough to justify blowing the living hell out of Iran. Some of the laws in Iran are just so ridiculous. If you know anything, if you've heard of one or two, you know enough to agree with me. It is illegal for women to sing and dance in the street. It's illegal for, actually, I think it has the audience makes a difference in some ridiculous way. A woman can't walk the streets alone. She has to be escorted. She has to have permission from her husband. Now, I know a lot of theocratic fundamentalists who would say, well, that's a good idea. Even Christians would say that that's a good. Some Christians would say that that's part of their belief system too. And hey, okay, but that shouldn't be a part of a government system. I don't care what religion you are. There was a reason why we separated church from the state. It was so that no particular religion would gain favor over another. Freedom of religion is kind of America's thing. And that means you can be whatever religion you want to be without any persecution. You know, without any cause of financial loss or, you know what I mean? Something like that. So, like it or not, even Satanists are protected by this idea. They're not, however, protected from, you know, say, sacrifice, human sacrifice. If they want to do something like that and it conflicts with our laws, yeah, that's not okay. So don't get me wrong. I'm not supporting that nonsense. Satanism is a rather silly, fundamentally, it's very, some of it sounds good. You know, the part of free thinking and all that, that's great and all, but some other parts of it are just silly. They're just very immature, easy for teenagers to latch on to. It's very rebellious, you know, and I get it. But, you know, real Satanism, that's real Satanism. And a lot of people think of human sacrifice and you know, drinking blood and actually worshiping an actual devil. That's not what real Satanism is. But, you know, whatever. I'm not supporting it. Make that very understood and clear. But at the end of the day, that message from Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, yeah, it wasn't much other than war bad. But it's a little more complicated than that, I would argue. You know, and he did touch on that fact, but yeah, I'm unclear as to the point, other than to make sure people, you know, understand that it's bad, but come on, man. Don't be naive. There's a lot of things going on in the world and there's a lot of things about Iran that tells me they had this coming. They've had this coming for a long time. And, Trump's the first president that had the balls to actually do something about it. Something else I've noticed a lot of people, particularly on social media, a lot of people aren't paying attention to are the threads that run through all these things that Donald Trump has been doing as far as Venezuela is concerned, as far as why he keeps talking about Greenland is concerned. The left loves to frame these as just ridiculously crazy ideas with no purpose. And, in the same way that people like to say there's no plan in Iran. No, man. The other side of that is that some people that have been saying Trump's playing 4D chess. And then, of course, the laughs that come from the left over that idea are just endless. Well, stop to think for a second. Do you understand the significance of what happened in Venezuela as far as Russia and China are concerned? Do you understand the strategical advantage of Greenland? It's not that it's just between us and Russia. For starters, the amount of rare earth materials that are in Greenland is staggering. And they've been quietly selling China the rights to some of those. And if they were to have that foothold, that in combination with the Venezuelan oil, that gives Russia and China a very powerful strategic foothold on the Western Hemisphere. And the only major power in the Western Hemisphere is us, baby. So, if you don't understand the strategic implications of these things that are going on that Trump has made efforts to interfere with, then you've really got no business even talking about it. You have no right to an opinion if you're not going to educate yourself, if you're going to cling to your biases, if you don't want to even hear anything like that, which a lot of people on the left tend to do. People I know personally. So, people on the right do this too, don't get me wrong. It's the far on each end of the spectrum that cling to the fringes, so to speak, or that cling to, or that latch on to just headlines and won't even read an article and get a full understanding of it, because a lot of the headlines that you see aren't entirely accurate. They're clickbait so that you'll click, but they don't even click. They'll just read the headline and they'll take that, and that's enough for them, when the headline can be 100% misleading. So I encourage everyone to remain intellectually vigilant, something I harp on myself a lot on this channel, because it doesn't happen. People just don't do it. It's people's natural instinct to vibe with a headline that fits their biases. It is a human inclination to be that way. It's not just an inclination of the left or the right. That's a human inclination. And we must actively fight against the tendency to do that, which I desperately try to do on a daily basis, because there is so much BS out there. Okay, I'm done grandstanding. That's it for now for me.
当然，我们也注意到，美方仍然出台了不少这个对中国贸易投资的限制措施。
Nonetheless, we still have noticed that the United States has introduced quite a few restrictive measures regarding China on trade and economic front.
特别是近期，美方连续启动了
This is China's chief negotiator on talks with the Treasury Secretary Besant.
Especially the recent launch of 2 Section 301 investigations. The target of such investigations include China.
对此，中方在磋商中进行了严肃的交涉，表达了严重的关切。
And to that end, the Chinese side lodged solemn representations with the U.S. side and expressed our serious concern during this consultation.
我们对单边的301调查的立场是一贯的，我们反对这种单边的调查。
Our position of opposing unilateral U.S. Section 301 investigations has been consistent.
我们对这些调查的可能结果，对来之不易的中美稳定的经贸关系可能造成的干扰和破坏表示担忧。
And we are concerned about the possible interference and damage
that the result of such investigations might have on the hard-won stable China and U.S. economic and trade relations.
我们将密切关注这些调查后续的进展，适时采取相应措施，维护中方正当权益。
And we will follow very closely the development of these investigations, take timely measures to safeguard China's legitimate rights and interests.
在这次的磋商中，中美进一步认同一个稳定的经贸关系，利于中美惠及世界。
In this round of consultations, China and the United States further recognize that a stable China-U.S. trade and economic relationship is good for both countries and beneficial to the world.
我们希望美方重信守诺，与中方相向而行，共同推动中美双边经贸关系行稳致远。
We hope that the U.S. side could have good creditworthiness and honor its word and work together with China, pull in the same direction to have a long-term, to facilitate a long-term steady China-U.S. trade and economic relationship.
通过这次的磋商，双方已经就一些议题取得了初步共识。下一步，我
As much as I like that.
He says he does. The president spoke on that last night. He said that he wished the UK had stepped up sooner and quicker, but he continues to speak with our allies in Europe and is calling on them to do more, just as he did when he called on them to step up with respect to their defense spending in NATO. He's calling on them to do more here, and I think you'll see that come to fruition.
So why does the president feel like he needs 2,500 or so Marines in the Middle East right now?
I would defer you to the Pentagon on that troop movement, and it's not something I'm going to get ahead of the Commander-in-Chief on. Yeah, and look, I'm not going to get ahead of him on any options that may be on the table for the president.
So Italy and Germany both indicated they're not willing to send their ships to police the Strait of Hormuz. In case NATO refused to do that, what is Plan B for President Trump?
Right now, the president is being very clear to NATO and to our allies in Europe what he wants them to do. And again, I think you're going to see that come to fruition. I would just add on one scheduling note later this afternoon, you'll see the president yourselves. He just told me he wants to bring you all in for the Kennedy Center board meeting lunch, so you can get ready for that if you're part of the pool today. And then, of course, at 3:30 this afternoon, he will be signing an executive order alongside the vice president to formally launch the anti-fraud task force, which will investigate fraud across the country. The vice president will be leading that, so you'll see them in the Oval Office later today. So I'll leave it to the president to answer the rest of your questions. Yeah.
Where does that stand right now, and has the president set a deadline that he wants to see China take any potential action?
No, I just answered the question. It's a leader-to-leader conversation at this point. President looks forward to visiting China. The dates may be moved. As Commander-in-Chief, it's his #1 priority right now to ensure the continued success of this operation, Epic Fury. So we'll keep you posted on the dates as soon as we can. Thanks, guys.
That was White House spokeswoman, press secretary, if you will, Caroline Leavitt. That is awesome news, Christian.
Sure is. Now, let's see what they're saying over on Bloomberg. Get some money, honey. What is everybody looking forward to today? What's everybody's hope for the market today? Because I see silver rebounding from sub 80, and I see Bitcoin. Bitcoin is Bitcoin wants to get above that 74,000, but will it make it? Looks like the oil futures are down a bit. Silver futures the same, but they're on the rise again. Ethereum has actually hit a 30-day high, which may or may not be noteworthy. The dollar sitting right at 100. Came up above it a little bit. Let's see what Bloomberg's saying.
So basically the Chinese side is saying this détente, we want it to last and we want a working relationship with the United States. What's interesting about this meeting, though, is I actually long thought the second Trump had these strikes in Iran, the meeting would be delayed because the Chinese like everything to be done ahead of time. And this is the first real meeting we've seen before that meeting is set to take place in just 2 weeks' time. So a lot of the deliverables aren't yet on the table, and Trump is now solely focused on trying to reopen the Strait of Hormuz.
And that is a major focus, not just for him, but for everybody else as well. As we count you down to the opening bell, this is the trading diary for the week ahead. At 2 p.m. Eastern Time, the NVIDIA CEO, Jensen Huang, speaking at the company's AI conference. Look out for that. Look out for this too. 3:30 Eastern Time, the President and Vice President J.D. Vance speaking to the press. The Vice President's been fairly quiet recently.
Dude, if you notice something about Trump, he speaks to the press a lot more than any other president. He's on camera almost every single day. Whereas Biden went 8 months without being on camera once. I can't remember exactly how long it was. But yeah, I happen to like that. But makes him more of a target than he already is. If you ever thought that was possible. Let's pop on over. You know what? I'm going to leave Fox, or Live Now from Fox, even though they're on a commercial at the moment. I'm going to leave them, their audio going, while I go have another cigarette as we wait for market opening to come. We've still got another 40 minutes. I appreciate the one guy that's here. I shall return.
Now from Fox, my name is Carla Hara. I'm going to send it over to some of the comments that President Trump had made.
I will be watching from outside.
The group of reporters that travels with him, this happening aboard Air Force One. On the other side of this, my colleague Josh Breslow will continue the coverage.
So we have a lot of things to talk about, but there's not much I can say to you about them. So one of those little problems in life. We had some very good results today, as you probably heard, in Iran. Very strong results, militarily results. We're talking to countries about policing the straits because they are the ones, we don't get oil, very little, 1%, 2%. China, as an example, gets about 90% of its oil from the Hormuz Strait. And nice to have other countries police that with us. And we'll help, we'll work with them. Militarily, as far as I'm concerned, we've essentially defeated Iran. I guess they can have a little bit of fight back, but not much. Not much. We've taken out their air forces, we've taken out their navy. We've taken out their air defense. There's no air defense whatsoever. We've taken out their leadership times 2 or 3. Might be 3. We'll find out soon. But militarily, it's been amazing. We attacked Karg Island, and we left just the one little area standing, and the standing part is where they have the pipes, all the oil pipes come in, and we can do that on 5 minutes notice. We have it all locked and loaded and ready to go if we want to do it, but we chose not to do it. I chose not to do it yet. We'll see what happens. They want to negotiate badly. I don't think they're ready. Just on what I'm hearing, they want to negotiate badly, as they should, but I don't think they're ready to do what they have to do. But I think they will be ready at some point. But we're doing very well with respect to that whole situation in Iran. We are talking to other countries about working with us on the policing of the strait. And I think we're getting good response. If we do, that's great, and if we don't, that's great too. But remember, like as an example, in many cases, they're NATO countries. We're always there for NATO. We're helping them with Ukraine. It's got an ocean in between us. Doesn't affect us, but we've helped them. It'd be interesting to see what country wouldn't help us with a very small endeavor, which is just keeping the strait open. That, by comparison, it's small because Iran has very little firepower left. Their missiles are down to a low number. You see, they're shooting very few of them. You know why? Because they don't have very many of them. And because we've decimated their manufacturing capability. Likewise, the drones are way down. They're down to about 20% of what they had. Still have some. And they're pretty tough. 7. Can we talk to you about 7? Just remember that it's something that we don't need, and these countries do need. And yet for years, it's like, for years we've been maintaining it, doing a great job. And now that the war is, now that they've been diminished in terms of military, their military has been greatly diminished. I think it's a good thing for other countries to come in. Now, it would have been nice, as I said to the Prime Minister of the UK, who sort of was reluctant to put his 2 aircraft carriers into harm's way. That would be 2 weeks ago. And as soon as we demolished, essentially pretty much demolished them, not over yet, but pretty much we're in great shape. Let's put it that way, as everybody knows. He said, we'd like to send our aircraft carriers. I said, I don't want them after we win the war. I want them before we start the war. So whether it's, whether we get support or not, but I can say this, and I said it to them, we will remember.
How soon would this begin?
Well, it started immediately, but it will take a little time to get here. Some of the countries have minesweepers, that's good. Some of the countries have a certain type of boat that could help us. Some of the countries would be, helpful. Remember, it only takes a couple of people to screw up the strait, a couple of terrorists. You don't need, their military is defeated, but all you need is a few people dropping mines here and there, and, you louse it up. So, we need, I'm demanding that these countries come in and protect their own territory, because it is their territory. It's the place from which they get their energy, and they should come and they should help us protect it. You could make the case that maybe we shouldn't even be there at all, because we don't need it. We have a lot of oil. We're the #1 producer anywhere in the world times 2, by double, at least double. Now I think it's much higher than that. But we do it. It's almost like we do it for habit. But we also do it for some very good allies that we have in the Middle East.
Sir, you mentioned that Iran wants to make a deal. However, earlier today, we heard their foreign minister say they never said they wanted to make a deal, but they'll do whatever they can to prevent Iran.
What they tell you and what they tell the public, I just put out a truth about their disinformation. I assume most of you saw it. But they used AI. They said they attacked the USS Abraham Lincoln, one of the largest ships in the world, an aircraft carrier, and they show pictures of it burning. It was never attacked, it was never burning. The Wall Street Journal put out a false story that 5 of our big, beautiful tankers that we feed the planes with, give the planes the gas, jet fuel, hundreds of thousands of gallons of gasoline, that they were all essentially destroyed. They weren't destroyed at all. In fact, 4 of them were not even, literally were not damaged. And 1 of them has slight damage and it'll be back in the air soon. But if you read the Wall Street Journal, it's like they were totally decimated and destroyed, like Iran has been. So they put out phony stories. The kamikaze boats. The kamikaze boats don't exist. They're fake. And you can almost see that when you look at them. It looks great, because if they did exist, we'd hit them just like we hit other boats all over the place. But they don't exist. In fact, some of the people say, where are the boats? Well, how come nobody's seen the boats? You know why? Because it's AI generated. It's fake. And I found, I didn't realize this before we started, but Iran is known for a lot of fake news. And they deal with our fake news. And I actually think it's pretty criminal, because our media companies, who have no credibility whatsoever, are putting out information that they know is false, and it's a very dangerous thing for the country. I think they could be in serious jeopardy.
Mr. President, your PAC put out a fundraising email a couple of days ago, and it's being criticized for using official White House photos of you at the dignified transfer. And the PAC is also promising access to secret.
Well, I was at the dignified transfer, unlike a lot of other people.
Do you think it's an appropriate email to send? Your critics are saying that you're fundraising.
I didn't see it. Somebody puts it out. We have a lot of people working. You know what ABC News? I think it's maybe the most corrupt news organizations on the planet. I think they're terrible. Okay, I don't want any more from ABC. You're much better.
Thank you, sir. What's Israel doing to help secure the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, they're working with us. The relationship with Israel, that was other fake news. They were saying, oh, did I have an argument with Bibi? No, we really get along well. And he would tell you we're leading the whole thing. And I can say it or not say it, it doesn't matter. The main thing is to get it done. But my relationship with Bibi Netanyahu is, I would say, extraordinary, actually.
If I can
go ahead.
When you called for the people of Iran to rise up, overthrow the government, what's going on there? They haven't done that. Do you expect them to?
You're dealing with thugs. You're dealing with horrible people. You're dealing with people that are violent and vicious. And that's the leadership and the people right under them, their military or their police. And they've notified everybody, and they put out statements that if you protest, you're going to be shot and killed. The protesters have no guns. And I know you're a brave person, but I don't think you'd be protesting. And so I think it's very hard for them to protest. I fully understand it. They said, if you protest, you will be killed. A week ago and 2 weeks ago, they killed 32,000 protesters, at least. We think the number's much higher than that. They shot and killed 32,000 protesters who were greatly enthusiastic and want to see a change because they've destroyed the country. The people that are running have destroyed the country. But think of it, they shot and killed much more than 32,000 people. Now they put out a notice 2 days ago that we're going to shoot and kill any protester. And they don't have guns, meaning the protesters, they have no guns. So I can fully understand why they're not doing it. Oh, one other thing that was AI generated, they showed about 250,000 people in a square saying how much they love Khomeini. Totally AI generated. It never took place. The media knew it didn't take place, but they built it up like they have great support. They don't have support. And that whole rally that they had 3 days ago, 4 days ago, that they said was fake. It was AI generated. AI can be very dangerous. We have to be very careful with it. But the rally, because I was actually surprised to see, because I know how much the people hate this leadership. This leadership has destroyed the country. The rally that everybody, including ABC fake news, your network is the worst. But everybody put that rally on. Like, oh, and even I was surprised. I looked. It turned out, I found out today, it was a totally AI-generated fake news story put out by news organizations in the U.S. and elsewhere. And honestly, they really shouldn't be allowed to do it.
Mr. President, are there any diplomatic talks going on between the U.S. and Iran at all right now?
Yeah, we're talking to them.
What are the
but I don't think they're ready. But they're getting pretty close. I don't know that I want to make a deal, because you know what? First of all, nobody even knows who you're dealing with, because most of their leadership has been killed, as you know, right? So I don't even know that we want to make a deal. But they want to make a deal badly, yes.
Mr. President, you mentioned that Iran's military has been decimated economically in other ways. Are you ready to officially declare victory?
No, I don't want to do that. There's no reason to. I think I'd just say they're decimated, but I wouldn't do that. I think that we've done damage to them right now. If we left right now, it would take them 10 years and more to rebuild. But I'm still not declaring it over. Our military is incredible. The job they've done is just incredible. And the problem is that when you look at fake stories written by you people, written by and generated by AI, it's incredible. And I just wonder, like Jeff, you know that these are fake stories. Did you know that the rally of 250,000 people, the supposed rally, was fake? Did you know that?
I saw the reporting on it.
But you wrote about it. You talked about it. And you knew it was fake. It was AI generated.
No, I didn't know it was fake.
You did. You knew it. You knew it.
Sir, have you talked about
anybody that knew the country knew there's not 250,000 people willing to stand in a circle and say how great Khomeini is. Okay.
So are you unhappy that you talk about the military objectives?
Yeah.
What about political leadership
Yeah.
in Iran? What type of leadership?
We have people. Some are dead, But we have some people that we think would be good, and we will see about that. It's something we talk about. See what happens.
Sir, you talked about selling oil futures.
5,000 Marines and sailors. Can you say why
You're a very obnoxious person. Go ahead, what were you going to say?
I wanted to ask if you talked about selling oil futures as a way of capping prices, trying to keep prices down at the pump.
The prices are going to come tumbling down as soon as it's over, and it's going to be over pretty quickly.
Do you have any concerns about the political impacts of this? I mean,
I have to do what's right. Political, I'm sure everybody has concern. I have to do what's right. I can't say that, gee, I don't want to have any impact on oil prices for 3 or 4 weeks or 2 months, and we're going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon and blow up the entire Middle East and beyond, right? Because, they were going to blow up the Middle East. If I didn't terminate the Obama horrible deal, the Iran nuclear deal it's called, if I didn't terminate that in my first term, they would have already had a nuclear weapon, and they would have used it immediately upon getting it. And if I didn't send in the B-2 bombers to bomb the hell out of it and obliterate, and that's what it was, we obliterated that site and stopped all their potential nuclear. If I didn't do that, you would have had Israel and the Middle East hit by nuclear weapons. And we wouldn't be talking about this right now. What I did in terminating the Iran nuclear deal, and what I did in sending in the B-2 bombers, it was one of the most incredible attacks anyone's ever seen. Late at night, dark, no moon, and every single bomb went right down those chutes and blew the whole place apart. If I didn't do that, you would have had nuclear warfare in the Middle East, and I think Israel would have been obliterated. I think lots of the Middle East would have been. And you saw that when they sent thousands of missiles to countries that didn't expect anything. They didn't think they were going to be involved. And yet you look at what happened with Kuwait, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar. You take a look at Qatar. I mean, they sort of got along. And all of a sudden they're being barraged by missiles. These people would have used nuclear on the entire Middle East. And that was their plan, take over the whole Middle East. And it failed with the nuclear. And then they had thousands of missiles. And for the most part, largely, we've now destroyed those missiles. Thank you very much, everybody.
One other topic. Can you tell us about Cuba? You're talking to Cuba. What do you want to hear from them, and what is that risk to them?
I am holding Cuba. Cuba's a failed nation. Cuba also wants to make a deal. And I think we will pretty soon, or either make a deal or do whatever we have to do. We have a lot of great people that happen to vote for Trump, not that that matters, but we have a lot of great people from Cuba that were violently and viciously thrown out of the country, and worse, their families were killed. And so we're talking to Cuba, but we're going to do Iran before Cuba.
And what is at risk?
And people have been waiting 50 years to hear this story with Cuba. When I left Palm Beach today, there were thousands of people on the road. I'm sure you saw them. And they were from Cuba and from Venezuela, all friendly, waving the flag and waving the American flag. They've been waiting 50 years for what's happening with Cuba. So I think something will happen with Cuba pretty quickly.
Do you want to hit on the Iran school strike? Is it looking more likely that it was the U.S.'s fault? Maybe the Iran school strike that happened on the first day of the war?
We don't know. That's under investigation.
Mr. President, what do you want to see in a deal with Iran to end the war, and how does that differ from Israel's objectives?
I think we have similar objectives, really, but could be a little bit different. They're there and we're very far away, but I think we probably have pretty similar with Israel. The relationship has been very good. The militaries are very well coordinated. Ours is the strongest by far in the world, and they have a real good military, really good. They have a lot of our weapons. They have our planes. They have our missiles. They have our Patriots. They have a lot of our weapons. We have the best. We make the best weapons in the world. And now what we're doing, as you probably saw, we have the Raytheon and all of the Lockheed. All of these companies are now building plants because we don't want to wait. We make the best weapons, but we don't like to have to wait for them. What we do have, though, is at a very high level, we have unlimited weapons at a medium to high level, and they're really doing the trick. And we're not using they call it the elite weapons, because frankly they haven't, outside of the original attack, they haven't been necessary. But these companies are building facilities, and they've already started all over many of them are building many buildings right now to make so that we wait 2 weeks instead of 2 years for weapons.
So last week you said that we're nowhere near sending ground troops to the Middle East. Are we still
I
in that
don't talk to
situation?
people like you about that. I mean, why would I tell you I'm sending or not sending? I don't talk about a military strategy. Who would talk about?
You know?
Who would answer a question like that?
Do you have a comment on the 6 service members who passed last week?
Who else?
Trying to incriminate him. Just trying to incriminate him.
Well, you start off with there will be no nuclear weapons. That's where it starts.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, there's plenty of things that we're going to get. Thank you very much.
How about the liberation of the Iranian women, huh? How about that? How is nobody talking about that positive?
Don't know that, you know, it's different than saying, you know, China could attack Taiwan and that is a risk. That is different than
the U.S. could attack Iran.
Right, or whatever that, you know, black swan is.
Yep.
That's different than the sort of underlying stressors within the market. And I've talked about this on the show before. I'm not convinced that private credit, for example, is it, right? I was looking at...
Okay. We are currently 15 minutes-ish away from the market opening. I'm not seeing too many major catalysts in the news, at least. Time will tell. But overall, looks like there's quite a bit of red and just flatness in the energy sector. The oil futures have come down a fair amount just in the last few hours. Looks like they were on the rise around 3 a.m. and then since then they have just plummeted. Bitcoin making a slow ascent. Now, I was going to get on last night. I was thinking about doing a live stream. I was thinking about starting a live stream on Sundays because Sunday tends to be a big moving day for Bitcoin. Comment if you'd like to see me do something like that. I've been contemplating it for a minute. But let me look at this. What is this from? This is the last 2 days. Well, let me bring this out to... Oh, since noon yesterday. Yeah. I mean, yesterday was a fantastic day overall for crypto, I do believe. A lot of times you'll see just a lot of big moves that don't really get anywhere. By the time Monday comes around, it's either right back to where it was or it's maintained a heavy loss. But yesterday was pretty damn good, I do believe. I mean, obviously, Friday we were above this $74,000 mark right here, and it looks like we're pushing up against it again, which I think is a good thing for crypto. I believe that is an excellent thing. In fact, it kind of challenges what I initially said about Bitcoin holding above 74. If it, you know, what I said was if it doesn't hold above 74, that it was probably going to come down to the 60s. But it looks like it's continuing to knock on that $74,000 mark. But war ultimately is good for Bitcoin, for things like Bitcoin. Because what does it cause? Well, it causes people to have to go out and buy materials. It causes everything involved in Bitcoin's price. Everything involved in mining Bitcoin, for example. Those prices go up. The demand increases on those things. There's a lot of things involved. Obviously, that's not all of it. But yeah, a lot of things involved. Heat map looking all right so far for pre-market as far as volume is concerned. Market cap. We're now 13 minutes away. Who's that Elon Musk I see over on Yahoo?
So, but then the next question is, does any of that matter if people start pulling their money out? If you get a bank run, if you get a private credit run, and we're seeing a little bit of that, right?
But these are...
I do believe that is Bloomberg that's talking about him.
Billion-dollar bid for Commerzbank, pushing its stake past the key 30% takeover threshold under German law. The CEO of UniCredit, Andrea Orcel, says the move gives his bank flexibility over the potential of a future takeover, though full control isn't the goal right now. A formal offer is expected in early May. And joining us now is Bloomberg's Stephen Aarons. He leads our EU finance coverage out of Frankfurt. And Stephen, they have to make this offer, right? It's a procedural motion after they pass the 30% stake. But they don't seem to want to take over all of Commerzbank right now. So why build such a big stake?
Yes, you're right. The offer sort of needs to take place and then gives Commerzbank the freedom. It's going to be off the table. They don't expect many people, any people really, to accept it. And then they're free to buy more shares if they want to. So that's the, I think, the rationale behind this. They want to be able to actually take over the bank, but they can't yet. There's government opposition to the potential deal. And once they have that flexibility, they have more time to talk to the government, to talk to the bank, and prepare, lay the groundwork for.
Defense Ministry reporting more than 60 drones attacked the country in just a matter of hours. So as always, a lot of developments and a lot to talk about there out of the Middle East. I want to bring in Mark Chandler, Director of Government Relations.
I want to bring in a little bit of news, Max.
He is also a former.
Let's see what they're saying about gas prices.
Because of the futures market, right? And yet their own costs haven't gone up instantly that way. They've got inventory. A lot of this is just fear. Right. And you should still be shopping because there are some gasoline stations that aren't out to rip you off.
That is definitely true. In fact, I'm going to pull up gasoline futures.
Is what the president said. He also said that the possibility of he could pay a political price for this war with Iran. I want to play that and get your reaction on the other side. Watch.
The prices are going to come tumbling down as soon as it's over. It's going to be over pretty quickly. Any concerns about the political impacts of this? I mean, I have to do what's right. You know, political and everybody has concern. I have to do what's right. I can't say that, you know, I don't want to have any impact on oil prices for 3 or 4 weeks or 2 months, and we're going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon and blow up the entire Middle East and beyond, right?
You know, John, there's something shocking about
this. This has been his goal from the beginning. Yeah.
Look at how how available he is. He's late at night. He's early morning. He's on Air Force One. He's everywhere, willing to talk at a time like this. Biden was hardly anywhere.
What did I just say?
We're forgetting so many things. I mean, every president since Jimmy Carter said Iran was a huge threat. It needed to be neutralized.
Yeah, and it's about damn time. As long as we stay in there and get the job done. But look, gasoline futures are coming down. In case you didn't understand what the name means, it is speculative about the future. And the market right now is saying that they believe gas is going to come down. The market right now is saying they believe that the price of oil is going to come down. Now, these are short-term futures. They are not long-term. In the long term, I do believe, in fact, you know what, I'm going to pull that up too. The long term, I do believe we're going to see a little bit of pain at the gas pump, but let's see here. Wish it would separate it by time. Oh yeah, baby. Yeah, perhaps there aren't too many time frames like there is for silver. Silver futures. You see up at the top it says May. That is a speculation on where the price is going to be by the end of May. I think. Pretty sure. There are various time frames for silver futures, but whichever one we are closest to currently is the one that's affected by industry. And I've said it before, industry will not stop buying. They have to pay whatever price silver is. So that's why I think it's a better investment than the long term. Long term, the further out futures for silver is mainly investors and collectors affecting the price. When you're talking about, industry, this is largely going to be affected by the price of silver going up, and industry will not slow down. They have to. And if anything, it'll pick up because they want to guard against any more future climb, right? Okay, Bitcoin still going sideways. Dollar sitting right at that $100 mark. The dollar is doing quite well, relatively speaking, and depending on what you want to happen in the market, that can be a good or a bad thing. Pre-market's not very individual stocks, not very indicative, but it's looking like we've got a largely green day today, guys. So, you know, pick your investment. If anybody's got a ticker symbol they want me to check out, drop it in the chat. I'll be glad to pull it up. Let's go back to, let's see what Newsmax is saying.
It's been a few weeks. This is over. President Trump says they're decimated in a matter of days. It's incredible. But to your point, the left-wing media will say that this is going to be a forever war.
Actually, I'm going to run to Bloomberg.
Meanwhile, Morgan Stanley's Mike Wilson believes the correction phase of this conflict is nearing an end. The S&P 500 is down 4%. I don't know if you can call that a correction from its highs, and had its worst two-week performance since April's tariff turmoil. Joining us now is RBC head of U.S. equity strategy, Lori Calvasina. Lori, is it your expectation that there's more pain in store for this equity market?
So it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, we define on our tiers of fear, and I know I'm scaring everybody by talking about this. I'm actually not that bearish. But
not at all, actually.
I'm not.
I don't think you're bearish at all. Yeah.
No, I'm actually pretty neutral. But, you know, part of it, right, last year around tariffs, actually heading into that situation, we kind of formalized our process for thinking about drawdowns. And so we sorted them into 4 tiers, which we call the tiers of fear. And tier 1 is a garden variety 5 to 10% drawdown.
Oh, these catchy names they come up
often.
with.
Right. We had one last October and November that bottomed out at 5.1%. It's possible this could be it, right? I mean, that one that we had last fall felt like it would go much deeper, and it didn't. And the U.S. is benefiting right now from, you know, kind of the safe haven trade at the moment. So, you know, it's certainly possible this could be it, but it wouldn't surprise me at all to see us go down a bit deeper. And if you kind of hit that 10.
Yeah, I mean, look at the volatility index. And I find it important to point out, you see these short and long entry indicators. This is one of those areas where I would disregard. You can trade on pretty much anything these days, but typically I'm pretty sure most exchanges won't let you trade on volatility. So these indicators are going to show up on every chart I pull up. I just want to put that out there. If you see them, don't jump ahead of me and assume that that's, you know, an indicator to trade. They pretty much only apply in like Bitcoin and stocks. I wouldn't even apply them to futures, just because the futures market is much more volatile. But yeah, the volatility index is fairly low. It's come down, so it's low relatively speaking. 5 minutes until the opening bell. What is Bloomberg saying now?
We've been so resilient in the U.S. equity market. We've been watching PE multiples creep down since last August, right? And it's been AI jitters, it's been private credit fears. Geopolitical tensions, frankly, started to really balloon back in January. I was up in Canada the first week of the year. We talked mostly about Greenland, not really about Iran, but I went back and looked at betting market data, and we actually saw expectations for the U.S. to strike Iran spike back then, and that's around when the S&P turned choppy and the energy trade really took off relative to the S&P. So I do think there was a tremendous amount of preparation going into those strikes. I think obviously people were not anticipating the extent of it. And, you know, when I talk to my colleagues sort of on the derivative side of the business, right, it seems like a lot of people have been very well hedged coming into this. So I think there is a lot of nervousness, but I think there's also a lot of protection on as well.
All right, you're going to stay with us, Lori. We've got the opening bells up next. As futures rise this morning, oil back down to only a mere $101.78 a barrel for Brent crude. S&P futures higher and NASDAQ futures up by more than 1%.
That's
We're back
Brent
with the
crude.
opening bell on the other side of this break.
We've got 3 minutes until the opening bell.
We normally operate with this. As I said, escort operations are complicated, so we need a command and control, such as European countries, that we do operate with occasionally, Japan, South Korea, those countries where we operate naval forces with and share information would be the best to go in and help set up some sort of escort operation. China, if they want, they get a lot of oil, or they used to get a lot of oil out there. They can come in, but maybe keep out of our way, so to speak. You know, put some sort of token support in there. But we do need support. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to set up any kind of escort operation in the near term based on the threat. Even though, Josh, it's not a highly technical threat, if you take out enough of a certain tanker or enough control mechanisms of the different tankers going through, they will start to block off that strait now and into the immediate future.
Look at this. I find this quite interesting. This is the volume in the last 24 hours going into crypto. And the volume for Ethereum is 8.79% as opposed to Bitcoin's 3%. Is that a sign of altcoin season coming? I don't think we've had a decent altcoin season quite yet. I know that's arguable, but I think that's interesting for Ethereum. Where's my $10,000 Ethereum? I've taken a heavy loss on my Ethereum holdings. Luckily, they're locked up. Well, I say luckily. I can't touch it. But yeah, that's probably good because I took like a 65% loss.
From the American public, from our allies going forward. This is not going to end quickly, but we're...
Okay. I want to pull up... I think I want to pull up some Schwab. I do believe. Y'all watched the Oscars last night? I did not. Old Conan O'Brien and what he said was pretty funny, though. Let's see. We'll put Schwab on.
Post earnings. I mean, suffice to say, it's up about 50%
1 minute
or so
from the
for last
opening
12
bell,
months, but I believe
baby.
It's down about 3% or so just this year. So analysts do believe that this could be the next positive catalyst, particularly as he does sort of lay out the supply, production and demand. If that all aligns, that could be certainly a positive one for the stock moving forward.
All right, so I see it's at 2 p.m. Eastern time, thanks to our headline there, and so we'll follow that. I saw 30,000 attendees and 190 countries, 700
Here
sessions.
comes the bell.
It's going to be huge. All right, Sam Bottas, great to see you. And folks, we are counting you down now to the opening bell.
There it is. Let's go.
Trading is underway here on Wall Street, expecting some up arrows. The Dow's up 370 points at 46,914. The S&P 500 up nearly 1% at 6691. We are seeing also the small caps up 1.3% for the Russell, up 33 points, and the Nasdaq is higher by more than 1%
Nvidia
as
jump.
well. So a great start here on Wall Street overall. What's leading the way? And by the way, it's looking
Meta.
like 90% green right now. Definitely some appetite this morning. Here
Yeah.
you have tech, industrials, utility.
That's because
real
it's a
estate
buy the dip
leading the way.
opportunity, baby.
And so those are some of the winners here on Wall Street. Names like Mosaic and Paramount and Occidental are some of the laggards, some of the winners here on Wall Street that we'll be covering too, of course. Intel, SanDisk, Micron, Seagate, Western Dig, Coinbase. So definitely a tech day here on Wall Street thus far. Also, Diane King Hall is joining us, and starting with tech here, looking at Micron, which has earnings this weekend news.
It does. Yeah, a lot of different forces around Micron right now.
I'm
As you
sorry.
mentioned, they have earnings coming up
My
this
bad.
week. They've got multiple analysts boosting their price targets today ahead
There's
of earnings. And then they're
Schwab.
also expanding AI memory production in Taiwan with a second facility there. So let's get into that first. They said they will build a second semiconductor manufacturing facility there at a site that it recently acquired from
Micron,
PowerChip Semiconductor Manufacturing. The new facility will produce advanced DRAM and high bandwidth memory chips used in AI systems. They've already completed the acquisition of this site.
I'm going to go over to Bloomberg. I'm just partial to Bloomberg.
Dollar Tree's glum outlook, and I wonder if you're not worried about the consumer as gas prices start to rise again. What are we at? 370 now for regular unleaded, and the
Bitcoin
consumer
on the
is
way up
squeezed in so
again.
many other ways. Inflation, core PCE was 3.1% in the last reading before the
Silver
gas
coming
prices came into play. How could
Dollar
you be
coming
so
down.
bullish on the stock market as we get into this forever war?
Well, it's funny. I was at a dinner last
What?
week with my rate
You get
strategist,
into-
Blake Quinn,
shut
and we
up.
were actually debating this point, and I had to remind him the U.S. equity market, the S&P 500 specifically, it doesn't have the same weight to the consumer that the U.S. economy does, right? And, you know, just to give you sort of an illustration of that, a couple of days after the Iran situation broke out, I went to my U.S. analysts and said, look, I said, I need you to fill out this survey. I'm really sorry. Like, and they were actually great. And I had a few people who even thanked me for doing it. But we just said we want to gauge impact from this conflict if oil goes above $100 for an extended period of time, and if the conflict goes on for an extended period of time, which we define as more than 4 weeks. So those were their parameters, and we said, you know, we want you to gauge impact to earnings from oil and gas. We want you to gauge revenue exposure directly from the Middle East. And third, and I think most importantly, we want you to gauge the impact of knock-on effects. And so then they had 5 choices. They could say none. They could say only a little. They could say mixed, not relevant. They could say some, a decent amount, and then they could say a lot. And so those latter 2 were sort of in the more significant impact category, and the first
Scott Bessent saying something.
From the Gulf, so there was a discussion of that, but these are economic talks. We're not the State Department. We're not defense
Lot of
minister
green,
to
baby.
defense minister. So we talk more about the economic ramifications. And
A lot of
we
green
encourage
in the
Chinese-
ETFs.
The Chinese have cut off exports of refined products and fertilizers, and we encourage them to be good international partners.
All right, guys.
So one more, if I can, just briefly.
Sorry, guys, we do have to get going right now. This is going to be the end for today.
Sorry, just briefly, I just wanted to ask, Mr. Secretary, sorry, you talked about the possibility of the President not going. Would you say now that basically as long as the war continues, that the Commander-in-Chief can't leave the country, can't go to China?
No, that's not what I said. I said if it is postponed. I said I was making it very clear
Fucking
that
media.
if it is postponed, the reason it would be postponed would not be because the president insisted on the Chinese taking an active role in the Strait of Hormuz.
Great, thanks, guys. We appreciate it. Have a good
Have a
Wanted
good
to
one.
play those out again moments ago. There you heard from U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
did want cheap sectors, right? You actually saw the sector benefiting from that early on in the quarter. But as things wore on, I know there was one day, I forget if it was last week or the first week, but like consumer staples were just getting whacked across the board. And like I talked to my trader, and there were not really,
The only thing that's getting really whacked across the board right now is energy. The only thing that's really getting whacked across the board, well, they see some industry and communications taking some hits, but overall, the energy sector's down and everything else is up, isn't it? But this is the back and forth that we're going to see. Tomorrow, it could be the opposite. You know what I mean? But hopefully what this is you guys taking advantage of these buy-the-dip opportunities. Because historically speaking, anytime you see any major world event, like war, for example, when the economy crashes in any situation, or when the stock market crashes in any situation, whenever you see a lot of blood red, you see a lot of people freaking out when they really should be buying. It's a buying opportunity. Everything was on sale last week. Historically speaking, every single major financial disaster in the last 100 some odd years has been followed by extraordinary times of growth. Every single time. That is smart money taking advantage of the buying opportunity. I have yet to see anybody in the chat with any ideas for something for me to look up. If you want me to look up something, I'll be glad to do it. What is this? Slotkin changes tune on DHS funding, Department of Homeland Security. I don't know why you wouldn't want to fund the Department of Homeland Security. Oh, wait, I know. So that you can blame Trump on something if we get attacked and didn't have the money to prevent it. Uh-huh. I swear, man, these people are ruthless.
And
So they are on the call and they are doing their jobs. Certainly, we need to fund the Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah,
And
duh.
we need, in my view, to cut away all the conversation on ICE, which is its own conversation, from all the core missions of the Department of Homeland Security. But they're essential. They're on the job. They're working today.
That's good.
Now, the partial shutdown has also caused lengthy lines at airports during the spring break travel season, prompting TSA to call on Democrats to end the shutdown.
Yeah.
This is now the third time that TSA employees have been working without pay over the last 6 months. And Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says
I don't know if you travel a lot, but TSA is a big pain in the ass when you're going through airport security. Great God.
Yeah. Absolutely incredible that they are holding up this funding. Logan, I want to ask
Sure
you your
is.
take on this. With the Senate, will they reach an agreement to resume DHS funding? Do you think that could happen this week?
It's possible.
John, that remains to be seen, but the pressure is certainly on.
Bitcoin
But as you
surging
heard from,
above
Senator
74.
Slotkin
Now
there,
stay there.
It looks like Democrats could end up funding DHS, but they don't want to fund ICE. So what they would do is that they would carve out funding for other branches of DHS, which includes TSA, the Coast Guard, FEMA, but they would want to not fund ICE for the time being. The question is how many Democrats can join with Republicans to vote to fund the other parts of the Department of Homeland Security. But it seems if this partial shutdown is going to end, that is going to be the path. It looks like ICE funding, though, will remain on hold for the time being.
DHS is quite big. TSA obviously affected. What are some of the other agencies that will be affected by this, and what's the impact right now?
So definitely the Coast Guard and FEMA are the two big agencies we're looking at in terms of this impact of the funding. And obviously the Coast Guard is intercepting drugs off our coast and helping to protect the coast of the United States. So that's certainly a big element of the Department of Homeland Security. But you look at FEMA, there are tornado warnings up the East Coast today. If there's any damage that comes from a tornado, FEMA would obviously be in charge of helping with that response. So that is something that could provide this sense of urgency for Democrats to fund most of DHS.
Incredible that they're holding this up, given we've had 4 terror attacks since this war started with Iran. Logan Raddick.
Yeah, really.
Man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So
Pope urges.
I'm just curious. See this little symbol right here, guys? Anybody here invested or not? I don't think very many people at all are invested in PiCoin. This was one of those coins that you actually have an app on your phone to mine it. It doesn't use your phone to mine. It mines on an outside system. It doesn't utilize resources on your phone. You don't have to leave the app open. It was just something they made you do every 24 hours. All the while gathering coin. They finally went public. What was that, last year, the year before? I think it was last year. And they came out and it was almost like $2 a coin. Now it's sitting at less than 20 cents. They the last couple of weeks, not a couple of weeks. Oh yeah, I guess it is a couple of days actually. They did take a few jumps up, coming back down now. But I had it set to lock up mine, so I couldn't take advantage of that $2 and sell like many people did, which is why it's where it's at. So I'm still technically mining PiCoin, and I will continue because it's free money. Do I believe in it as far as utility is concerned? Does it matter? Not to me. Free money is free money. So yeah, I can't unlock mine for another 2 years. Or maybe it's one more year. I don't know. All I know is I'm not gonna sell them until the next bull market comes along, because Bitcoin will drag everything up, and then I will sell. Most def. Looks like Bitcoin is looking to try and run up above 74.5, which it desperately needs to do if we're going to hang on to this positivity in the crypto space. And as long as the war is going on, I think that's a very good chance that could happen. Because war is good for Bitcoin. Silver on the rise. Dollar coming down has a lot to do with that. Our oil futures are tanking. Pardon the pun. Oil futures are tanking. I tend to agree with the signals on the screen. This is a good opportunity to short. Would have been better up here. Whew. at 100x leverage, investing $100, you could have made, quite a pretty penny. I'm pretty sure they're on like Coinbase. You can only use like a 10 or 11x leverage, something like that. It's some off figure. So $100 would effectively weigh about $1,000. So for every dollar it moves, you would make $10. So on a $100 investment, you could have made $50 on a $5 move. It's not really much to write home about, but had you dropped $1,000 in, you could have made $500 on that $1,000 investment. High risk, high reward. If you haven't seen my video on how leverage works, and if you keep getting liquidated and you don't know why, you should watch that video, because once I discovered what I mentioned in that video, my liquidation all but came to a halt once I understood how it works. Because when you first jump into anything with a high liquidity, you probably lost your ass at first, like I did. Very first time I used any kind of high leverage, I lost like $300 or $400 in 30 seconds. It was gone. What the hell happened? I had no idea. I was using 100x leverage, which means if the price moves 1% down, you lose all of your money. 1% of $300 is $3. So whatever I was investing in, it moved $3 and boom, you're dead. Live and learn, huh? Best ways of learning are by making mistakes, especially financial ones. Still a lot of green in the market. Looks like there's some more green showing up in the energy sector. Retail trade looking flat or red a little bit. Technology overall green. Communications red or flat. But overall, a lot of green in the market. I'm telling you, man, a lot of buying opportunities. You should be investing. Wartime is the best time. War is good for America. It's good for our money, because our money ain't backed by anything but war anymore. The military-industrial complex. Brent futures still down. Still above that $100 mark though. I don't trade Brent, even though I trade this one, even though they're pretty closely related. I trade this one because it's cheaper, and I am a broke bitch. Slightly cheaper. I don't know if the contracts are cheaper. I really don't. I've never even tried to buy the contract. I use Coinbase when I buy my futures. And Brent is a brand. I like to stay away from brands. I like to trade the overall, and I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's what this one represents. Whoa. Silver making a little bit of a run up. Will it bust through this resistance? Well, if the dollar keeps on coming down, it will. Bitcoin looks like it's about to make another, if you want to call that triple top, I wouldn't, but it's trying. It's trying. Looks like it's setting up a small bull flag. We'll be watching this, because that's exactly what it looks like. When it does this staircase up and makes a little hook like this with a little bull flag, it starts to look like what I call a Loch Ness monster, and the Loch Ness monster is always a good sign. Still looking green. There's not many other catalysts going on in the news right now.
American would take this position.
Absolutely not. I mean, there was the one thing that we all knew wouldn't happen, right? You had all these Vegas betting odds on the Papabile, right? The Popable candidates. It would have been like Cardinal Parolin, maybe Tagle from the Philippines. And speaking of the Middle East, Pete Cibola, who was the guy who offered himself as basically almost an ambassador to Jerusalem.
The FBI is on high alert after the recent attacks. Yeah, you'd think so. they need to hurry up and fund DHS, and we can maybe prevent some of this BS
thing. So it's, we have a situation where perhaps we haven't maintained the intelligence gathering that's necessary to make us as safe as possible. So that's why it underscores and makes it even that much more important that people take into their own hands their own safety.
All right, Jeff Wenninger, thank you so much for being
hell of a
here
statement.
again. We definitely appreciate it.
Thank you.
And popping this up on your screen once again, we do have these 2 terror attacks that took place. The FBI saying they are investigating both of them with the help, of course, of their local offices. The one on the left there at Old Dominion University over in Virginia. And on the same day, last Thursday, Temple Israel in West Bloomfield, Michigan. As we get more
Yeah, did y'all hear? The gunman was supposedly the brother of someone in the Iranian regime. I can't remember exact. I don't want to misquote. But yeah, that has now been confirmed, which I find very strange. Why would you? What difference do you think you're going to make by attacking a synagogue? For Christ's sake. Which I also find equally interesting is that synagogue had armed security. I mean, are they a target? Yeah, absolutely. Sure. So I guess it's a good thing, but I just find it odd. Like, just think, why would you have an armed guard at your place of worship? I mean, that's pretty effed up that you need to have that. I guess it's a good thing though. It's just wild, but it's just wild the times that we live in. People are just horrible.
Again, we did see a little bit of a reversal in the market, and that could be the case here today. We will see. It seems like the market right now is just basically getting closer to oversold territories. Maybe some buyers are trying to step in, some shorts probably covering as well. And then you have these positive headlines when it comes to the technology sector that's also giving us a boost. So if you're looking at to the upside, 67.40 is where we have seen the majority of the calls being transacted this morning. That would be your first major area of resistance. And as your area of support, 66.80, that's pretty much where we opened up today, and we started seeing some buyers stepping in. If we do see a reversal, we'd like to hold that level, and if we see any type of breakdown, 6,600. We are still seeing a wide range when it comes to the implied move in this market, with volatility or the VIX still sitting at around 24.5, still implying around a 1.5% move to the upside or downside. So a pretty decent start, but we got to be able to follow through for today if you're a bull.
Okay, and then what about diesel? That's on your mind. Why?
Well, it's one of those products that are in very short supply right now because of the heavy sour that's being disrupted because of the Strait of Hormuz. But if you kind of look at a chart on a 20-year monthly time frame, this is close to the area of resistance that we usually do see. Now, we could actually have prices continuing to move higher, but you have seen some sellers kind of stepping in here. Now, the monthly chart is still actually relatively bullish. If you look at the MACD, the 12 EMA is above the 26 EMA. This is the monthly chart. We have to remember that. And it's just crossing the zero line, which does suggest that maybe elevated prices could actually last here for another couple of months. But we are in overbought territory when you're looking at RSI. So we just hit a key area of resistance over the last day or 2 days, trading days for that matter. Seen some selling into that. And unfortunately, if we do actually still see prices above $4, $4.50, we probably will start talking about more demand destruction, not only domestically, but around the world. That could also bring energy prices lower here. So keep your eye out on this, not moving as much to the downside as we are seeing with crude oil, given the fact that we have a very big shortage here on a global basis.
Kevin Green, great to see you. Thank you so much. All right, it's time for a look at the big picture as we wrap up this first half hour of trading. And Joe Mazzola, Director of Trading Services with Charles Schwab, is with me. And what's interesting is we're higher here, but to your point that we did hit the low of 2026 on Friday and that we've been down 3 weeks in a row and haven't seen that in a year. What do you think now?
Yeah, I'm probably in the camp, at least in the short to intermediate term, of maybe fading some of these rises. We'll probably see a nice bounce this week. I would imagine.
Yeah, I think so too.
Maybe we get back up to challenging that the high 6750, maybe even 6800 level. But I think we need to get back up there and kind of hold that level to make me feel like the range is reestablished, because that's where we were for multiple months. We broke through that range. I just heard Kevin speaking about kind of what we're seeing from volatility, what the markets are expecting in terms of a move. And what's really interesting is even though you've got the VIX coming in quite a bit today, it's down about 10% today, the spread between implied volatility and realized volatility, basically the spread between what people are willing to pay for the move and what the move actually is, it's still pretty wide. So you're still seeing a lot of hedgers out there betting on bigger moves. We haven't gotten the moves. And I think that maybe that speaks to the fact that markets are maybe trying to see past some of the volatility.
I do believe, even though you're seeing crude futures coming down, I do believe you're going to watch them come up, because the market hasn't yet felt the impact of the closing of the Strait of Hormuz. I do believe we've got that coming. Would I buy into it right now? No, because if it comes down even more, which it very well could, that's going to dip into your liquidity pool. If you have any added liquidity in your account to guard against liquidation, that'll definitely cost you to maintain. I like to get in and out of futures as quick as possible, just because the fees, man, the fees. Ethereum looks like it tried to double top. Bitcoin moving a little slower, but the same idea basically. This is just a little more spread out than the Bitcoin. Crypto heat map. Look at that, man. The volume in the last 24 hours has come up. It was 8.79. It's now 9.05. That's a lot more than Bitcoin. Man, our stock heat map is still looking good. I'm not seeing too many major catalysts in the news or anywhere else. Not an extremely volatile day. In fact, there's your volatility for the day. It's coming down. So this is a good day overall. This is a good day. What is going to happen tomorrow? Tomorrow being St. Patrick's Day. You got any plans for St. Patrick's Day?
America, please join me in
Too bad there's no beer futures.
Mourn this unimaginable loss. As our service members continue to carry the flag of freedom around the globe, may they continue the righteous mission for which these heroes paid the ultimate sacrifice. God bless our troops. Right now, we are going to head to a quick 2-minute commercial break, but we will have more coverage coming up in just a few. Stay with us.
I'm going to pull up Newsmax again, because these jerks are on commercial. I think these guys are too.
Prior criminal history.
We just could not understand what their methodology is for making selections on who.
Guys, I'm gonna go grab a smoke because there's nothing else really going on. I'll keep on. I'll stay in the chat. I'm gonna go grab a smoke
on multiple
and a
felony
refill on my
charges
coffee.
And was released. The bail project put him back out on the streets prior to my son's murder.
Sterling says her son's case is not isolated. This past December, 27-year-old Benjamin McComas was allegedly shot and killed at a Cleveland train station by Donnie Allen. The same Donnie Allen who was reportedly sprung out of jail after the bail project stepped in to pay for his $5,000 bond, even though Allen's own family apparently warned that he should not be released because he would continue to reoffend. To Raphael Mangual of the Manhattan Institute, this is what decarceration ideology leads to. Bail assistance for people who have no business roaming free.
When you have a dangerous defendant who fails to make bail, that could likely be by design, right? A judge can come in and set bail at an amount that they don't think the defendant will be able to make. A group like the Bail Project coming in and eroding those public safety benefits willy-nilly without any regard for the offender's criminal history, that offender might be in the middle of a domestic dispute, and the only thing between him and a vulnerable woman might be those jail cells.
In a statement to Newsmax, a Bail Project spokesman said in part that they've supported over 35,000 people and the overwhelming majority have remained safely in their communities. Since Dylan's murder, Nikki Sterling has testified at state hearings, urging tighter regulations on outside bail groups. She says she is determined to spare another family the pain she now carries.
until there are more restrictions around this organization, they will continue. It will continue to happen. Both Benjamin and Dylan would still be alive if it were not for the Bail Project.
Nikki's testimony in Indiana helped pass a new law restricting groups like the Bail Project from helping defendants accused of violent crimes or those with prior felony records. And as we previously reported, Ohio lawmakers may soon follow suit with what's known as the Holly Act, which would similarly block nonprofit bail organizations from springing loose suspects accused of serious felonies. John?
Wow, incredible. Jason, appreciate it. Thank you so much. We appreciate that report. Incredible work that they're doing. That's all the time that we have for today's edition of News Now. I'm John Glasgow in for Shannon Cake. Really appreciate you being here. National Update is up next.
There's the basic way to redeem your credit card rewards. And then there's the best way with the Cards Optimizer from Intuit Credit Karma. Get tips that show you ways to earn more rewards and see how to redeem them to get the max value so you can take your rewards farther. Download the app to get started.
God, you guys are awesome.
Someone has something they want to say to you.
Goodness, how's it going? So I just want to let you know how much you appreciate it. How much you appreciate it.
I just feel honored for everything you've done.
Thank you for myself. Thank you for everybody.
I get to live every day, in peace because of you.
A lot of people thank us, but we want to take the time to thank you, honestly, for giving back. And when you give to DAV, you are supporting veterans like Dave, myself. So thank you so much for your.
Thank you. You guys are amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
You can say thank you to our nation's heroes by calling the number on your screen right now and giving your monthly support of only $19.
Say thank you by going to helpdav.org right now and give just $19 a month. When you do, we'll send you this DAV blanket as a thank you and a reminder that you support those who served.
Please call or go online to helpdav.org right now. Your support says thank you to our nation's disabled American veterans.
The war with Iran now in its third week, and the Strait of Hormuz serving as the front lines with Iranian attacks not letting up on the crucial waterway. Now, President Trump urging other countries to send warships to keep the waterway open. This as Americans are struggling with high oil and gas prices that the administration stresses are only temporary. Homeland Security still isn't any closer to getting its full funding. TSA agents miss another paycheck as chaos and delays at airports are getting worse. What will it take to get Democrats to the table? And more than 100 million people start the week facing the threat of a massive March storm. Feet of snow falling in the Midwest, while parts of the East Coast, including the D.C. area, are under a tornado threat. And good morning. Welcome to National Update. I'm Tracy Sable. The war in Iran and Operation Epic Fury showing no immediate signs of ending. As a result, oil prices remain high. The administration is now floating several options to contain costs and say several countries have agreed to form a naval coalition to escort commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. The administration predicts the war will end in weeks, but President Trump says the U.S. isn't ready to make a deal with Iran because the terms are not good enough. The president also threatened to delay his trip to China next month if President Xi Jinping does not take similar action. We are expected to hear more from the president from the White House just before noon. Meanwhile, Israeli troops began targeted ground operations in southern Lebanon. The IDF says a limited offensive is aimed at taking out key Hezbollah strongholds. Joining us now is retired Army Lieutenant Colonel, president of Project Sentinel, and as well as author of Comrade Ayatollah Amir Farquhar. Amir, great to be with you. I think we're going to get Tony Shaffer in just a minute, but I want to start with you. President Trump wants other countries to take action by sending their own warships to defend the strait. And he says that it could be bad for the future of NATO if they do not. So far, reports claim that Japan and Australia have said no to sending ships. The UK is discussing options, and China wants the hostilities to end immediately. So, Amir, what do you see happening here?
Thank you for having me, Tracy. The situation is for last 47 years. The Islamic regime of Iran used exactly that tactic. They were always threatening about the state of Hormuz. They are going to close it down. And then everybody in United States and in the world, they were worried about that part. But now President Trump finally just found the solution for that part, and to bring the coalition of American allies to that place. And China cannot come and help because it's China's economy. It depends on exactly Strait of Hormuz, and it should be safe for them too. And you know what? This is the problem. Should have been taken care of 47 years ago, but it was not. And finally, the 47th president decided to take care of the situation. If a regime has right now hundreds of thousands of missiles, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and it's coming from China. It's coming from Russia. They have been stored all these missiles for years. It was not going to get better. Iran is a rich country, but the people are not rich. The people are poor because the regime used all the petrodollars to go and buy just these missiles and store them for the day they can just come after Europe, come after Israel, come after United States. They are working on it. And at some point, somebody should just put the stop sign in front of them. And it was the brave President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. We should say thank you to both of them.
Yeah, we're going to bring in now retired Army Lieutenant Colonel, president of Project Sentinel, and Trump campaign national security advisor, Tony Shaffer.
Morning.
Tony, great to see you. Good morning. From Air Force One on Sunday, President Trump was speaking, and he indicated that Iran is pushing hard for talks. But in his view, he says they're not quite ready to follow through on what is required. Let's listen.
They want to negotiate. They want to negotiate badly. I don't think they're ready. Just on what I'm hearing, they want to negotiate badly, as they should. But I don't think they're ready to do what they have to do. But I think they will be. They want to negotiate.
All right, a little hard to hear the president there, but basically saying that they're not ready to negotiate. Tony, your thoughts on that? And even if they did come to the negotiating table, I mean, should we believe the regime?
No, the conditions have to be right for us, not them. The conditions have to be that they're going to be willing to accept two things primarily. First, they will abandon any attempt to maintain a path towards a nuclear program or using their proxies in the region to conduct operations of terror. The second thing is, while we don't necessarily say that regime change is an official policy point, it's kind of what we want. And that regime change must mean that the people of Iran are given a voice in their own governance. And I think at this point, based on my sources, we are encouraging and trying to actually assist the rebel elements in country trying to moving towards that objective. So that takes time. So President Trump is correct in holding back. The other thing that we're doing, which is not a secret, we're looking at taking control of Karg Island. The Iranian regime cannot maintain any level of consistent control if they cannot produce any economic benefit to the people or income to the country. So I think at this point, if they don't comply with what President Trump, that is the Iranian government, comply with what President Trump is demanding, they're going to see their economic resources removed from their ability to use, just like we did in Venezuela. So that's what's coming if the Iranian government doesn't comply with what President Trump is asking.
Yeah, Amir, Tony mentioned regime change. You know, on the ground, Iran, reportedly about 500 people are accused of sharing information with so-called enemies. They've been arrested. What does this tell you about what's happening right now on the internal pressure in the regime and what we're seeing from the Iranian people? Clearly, they want to change.
You know, Tracy, those 500 people, regime says they are they arrested for sharing information. They are internal bleeding of the regime itself, because the people, they don't have any information to share it. And we are talking about the country that 99% of the country right now, they are against the regime. I have seen some reports that 10 to 15% of the people, they are with the regime. That's wrong. It's just probably 1 or 2%. And when an entire country, they are against this regime, they are ready. We are not like other Arab countries in Middle East. The Iranian nation, we love America. We are the most pro-American nation probably on earth. And we are ready for that. General Tony Schaefer mentioned about the going and grabbing Khark. We are okay with that. We, the Iranians, we are okay with that.
Exactly.
We hope it will be the biggest base. Yeah, we know you don't want it to have it, because you have 15 base in Japan and it's all safe. The Japanese, they love it. Yeah. We love Americans. We can trust them. We cannot trust Russians and Chinese.
I gotta jump in right. I hate to cut you off, Amir. I gotta jump in. Please stand by, because we have our foreign correspondent standing by in the UAE. We got to go to him, but stand by. We're going to bring in now Inzama Rashid. He is standing by for us live from the UAE at the Strait of Hormuz. Great to see you. Tell us what's going on right now.
Well, Tracy, look, ships aren't passing through. That's the bottom line. In fact, very, very few. And they are only Iranian ships heading out to China and a couple to India. There's only, well, there's less than 10% of what the normal rate would be. Usually you see around 200, well, about 20 million barrels of oil passing through these waters, around 200 oil tankers every day passing through these waters. That's, you know, a huge number in comparison to what we're seeing now. As I mentioned, we are only seeing those Iranian tankers passing through, heading to the likes of China, heading to India as well. And as a result, we are now seeing around 1,000 vessels backed up in these waters behind me. And they're not going through because of the fear that they could be targeted by the Iranian regime, who's got control of these waters now. We've already seen them strike a number of vessels with drones and ballistic missiles. Today, the Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson in a press conference had said that countries that aren't involved in this aggression on Iran have managed to pass and they won't attack them. That's not entirely true, because we saw a Thai flag carrier over the last couple of days that was targeted by the Iranian regime. 3 of the crew members still missing at sea. So it's not entirely true that they're not targeting countries that don't really have a sword in this fight. What else are we seeing here? Well, we're seeing a huge target of the energy facility, Fujairah Port, which is just down the road from me, also hit. That's the really great point, which means that the Strait of Hormuz, when it is blocked, is being used to get oil out to the rest of the world. But look, this is a very perilous and dangerous stretch of water now. We're seeing the military aggression happen across the Gulf. We're seeing it here, but it's also here, Tracy, where the world is really feeling the economic effects of this war.
Yeah, no doubt. And someone great to be with you. Thank you so much. Stay safe. We're going to go back to our panel right now. Gentlemen, good to have you back. Tony, just your thoughts really quickly on what we heard from Inzama at the Strait of Hormuz, what he's saying.
So I'm looking at the maritime tracker. You can see it. The ships are there kind of holding on from 130 plus ships a day to maybe 5 or 6. The issue at this point is the fact that the Iranians are masters. The IRGC are masters in asymmetric warfare. They threatened mine laying. They didn't do it. They do have drone technology, both boat and missile, that is effective, and it has damaged at least a dozen ships. So, you know, when you're talking about hundreds, intimidating 1 or 2, hitting 1 or 2 has a massive effect. So that's going to be a focus of the United States Navy and our allies in the region to fix. that we have to fix this. And by the way, President Trump has said he's going to underwrite any insurance needs to get this thing going again. But mark my words here, this is not going to stand long. I think you're going to see this all open up. We, the United States, do not get any oil from the Strait of Hormuz at this point. But the idea here is we want to actually open it up for our allies in the Pacific because it's important.
Yeah, we have about a minute left. Amir, I want to go back to you. This information about the State Department announcing a $10 million reward for more information on the new Supreme Leader and other key IRGC leaders. What more do you know about that? And is there any chance that we might see members of the IRGC, step down maybe?
No, Tracy, it's just delusional. If some people, they think it will be some defection from the IRGC. The terrorists' mindset is totally different from us, from the normal human beings. They are designed to kill, and they are designed to disrupt the world order. And it's the only thing we cannot. President Trump should not even think about going and talking with who he want to talk. Just he should think about kill them all. We, the Iranian people, we are okay to see all these 1% of terrorists who have been occupying this country, the great country of Iran. We are totally okay to see them all killed. And then 99% of Iranians can breathe and can join the society of civilized world. We are the birthplace of civilization. And look what happened to us because of these terrorists. Just kill them all. And we hope we can have as much as help as we can from United States and Israel to do that. The same Japan had post-World War II.
All right, we got to leave it right there. Amir, Tony, great to be with you both. Always great insights. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Tracy. Good seeing you.
All right, we continue our live coverage now with senior correspondent John Huddy, who is joining us now live from Tel Aviv with some exclusive reporting. John.
Well, that's right, Tracy. One of the things we've been seeing, we've seen a decrease in the intensity and the frequency of these Iranian ballistic missile attacks. They're launching on average about, according to the IDF, about 10 to 12 ballistic missiles per day. So that number has dropped dramatically, as I reported last week, and as we confirmed with the IDF today. But the danger and the threat remains the cluster munitions. These ballistic missiles are carrying the cluster munitions that are released, and they can span several miles. And they're basically these bombs that come down in neighborhoods. Well, we saw an example of the impact of basically a 4 kilo, around a 10-pound cluster bomb that landed in an area called Bnei Brak. This is an area just to the east of Tel Aviv. It's a very religious area. Hasidic Jewish people live there. And we saw the impact of one of these cluster bombs that landed on a roof of a building, went right into an apartment where a woman and her 6 children were living. Well, we got exclusive access inside that apartment. Newsmax was allowed to see the impact, how it tore through that apartment, the shrapnel going through that apartment. And we also spoke with IDF Brigadier General Effie Defrin. He is in charge of the IDF spokesperson's unit. He is the chief spokesperson who talked to Newsmax exclusively about the impact of these cluster munitions and the use of them by the Iranian regime. Listen.
They are using cluster munition on heavy populated areas in order to kill as many civilians as they can. It's a terror regime, and it only presents its nature. What we claimed in the past, we only see it now. They are not aiming at military targets. They are aiming at pure civilian areas in order to kill innocent people.
Yeah, and specifically religious areas like the neighborhood that we are in today. Also, General Defrin, we talked about...
I just want to apologize. I am currently on hold with the IRS because my tax refund is now 7 weeks late. And I have caught hell trying to get a reason. I keep getting notifications in my email saying that... I keep getting emails saying there's an update to your status, but then when I check, nothing's changed. So I do apologize for not being here. Looks like my viewership dropped off, which is to be expected, I suppose. But I mean, really today, there's nothing much going on anyway. So as you can probably hear, I am on hold. And as soon as they show up, I am going to have to discuss things with them. So thanks for hanging in there. Sorry for the absence, but I am currently homeless and I am currently broke and I am highly dependent on that money coming. So, yeah. Like I said, it's been 7 weeks. Have anybody else had the same issue? Because, like, you file electronically, they say it's supposed to be there in 3 weeks, and it's been like 7. I did claim the earned income tax credit. So I hear that usually makes it take a little longer, but not this long. And this has just been unbelievably, ridiculously long. Let's check out what Bitcoin is doing. Bitcoin is doing well, hanging on to that 74. Ethereum creeping its way up. Look at this, short signal and then immediately a long signal. They base this on, you know, what the candle looks like. So it can be wrong, signals. They can all be wrong. ETF's looking good. Crypto heat map looking good. Nvidia hanging on to those gains. I sure wish it would run up to that $280 price point they predicted for a year from now. Got 2 calls expiring in 3 days. They're worthless currently. Luckily I didn't pay that much for them. Meta doing pretty good. Brent oil futures making a little bit of a recovery, but it might come up to about right here, but it'll likely go back down. Silver looking like it wants to make its way up, providing the dollar continues to go down. So it slowed it because it started to come up again. These two things are directly related. When you are seeing the value of silver go up, the price of silver go up, you're not witnessing the value go up. You're witnessing the value of the dollar come down. Yes, so I do apologize that I have not been as active as I usually am, but it's been pretty much a nothing day.
To protect your privacy, you will need to provide your full name as it appears on your last tax.
I'm going to keep Old Live Now up. Looks like Trump is scheduled to speak. Is that what I just read correctly there? President Trump news conference today at 11:45. That's still an hour and a half away. I am probably going to stay on for that.
Sure to bring that to you here in full as we get it. Not quite sure the exact topic,
so
but
I appreciate you guys
right
hanging in there with
that
me.
Board meeting set to take place
I
immediately
will
after. We'll keep you updated here as we get more information, and again, you
All
can
right,
watch it in full, commercial free on Live Now from Fox as it gets underway. Right now, I do want to take a live look at the stock board here. The Dow remains in the green on this Monday, up about 1.19% or a little more than 500 points. Now, earlier, we took you out over to Paris, France. That is where the U.S. and China are taking part in these talks that are all related to the economy and a few other topics as well. We heard from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent as well as U.S. Trade Administrator Jameson Greer. Now, we caught the tail end of those remarks about the last 2 minutes, but it looks like there's actually a longer version where they made some initial comments. That one about 6 minutes in length. I want to play that for you now for the first time on Live Now from Fox.
Everyone, this is going to be a little quick today, so let's just get right to it very quickly. I know you all have a lot of questions, but we'll have to just start very quickly. So let's go to the first person. Dave Lauder, Reuters.
Hi, Secretary, Ambassador. This meeting was meant to sort of tee up some potential deliverables for the two presidents to consider when they meet at the end of the month in Beijing. Can you give us an idea of what you agreed to, what those are going forward? And will this meeting take place at that time, given what the president has said about wanting China to help open the Strait of Hormuz?
Okay, well, let's split that up. First of all, I want to absolutely bifurcate that if the president's visit, and I'm saying if the president's visit is postponed, it would have nothing to do with the Chinese making a commitment to the Straits of Hormuz. It would obviously be in their interest to do so, but a postponement would not be as a result of any ask from the president not being met. The postponement, if it happens, would be because the Commander-in-Chief of the United States military believes that he should stay in the United States while this war is being prosecuted. What I would say about our talks here, they were constructive, and they show the stability in the relationship. It is a continuation of Kuala Lumpur, the Busan agreement that was reached with our leaders to continue our work streams. I'll let Ambassador Greer walk through what we discussed.
So what we've concluded today really is the general terms of a work plan between now and the meeting between the presidents, with the idea that there'll be potential deliverables at that meeting. We, of course, discussed compliance with the Busan agreement. This means rare earths, etc. From time to time, we will get information from U.S. companies or stakeholders about the status of receiving rare earths. And so we covered issues like that related to the agreement. We also talked about expanding trade exports to China in terms of agricultural goods, energy goods, etc. We talked about potentially having even a mechanism with the U.S. and China, almost like what we might call a U.S.-China Board of Trade, just a way to formalize a little bit, identifying what kinds of things should we be importing from China, what kinds of things should we be exporting to China, to really make sure that we can focus on areas of mutual benefit. Those are the kinds of things that we discuss. That's what we expect the leaders to be talking about when they meet.
Great. Let's please move to the next question. I believe it's AFP. Gentleman to the right. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Mark Landau with the New York Times. I'm just wondering whether you've been made aware of any Chinese retaliation in the wake of the 301 investigation, and did the investigation and/or a Chinese response come up during the 2 days of trials?
Well, there were very detailed discussions in terms of the new tariff authorities we will be implementing. It's the 122. We discussed the USTR and Ambassador Greer's investigation, but in terms of retaliation, as I said, there's great stability in the relationship, and the purpose of these meetings is to prevent any retaliation, as we saw this time last year.
And I would say we started these talks really by giving them a preview of what we're doing on U.S. trade policy as we adjust to the Supreme Court. Remember, the president's trade policy hasn't changed. Our tools may change, and we're conducting these investigations. We don't want to prejudge them, and we had a good conversation with our counterparts about that process.
Great. All right, guys, we have time for one last question. I'll take it from, I believe that's AFP. Yes.
No, I am with the Epoch Times.
Very good.
Okay. Agent Cashapp from the Epoch Times. I wanted to ask you if you have discussed about the war in Iran, aside from the question of the Strait of Hormuz, and then, if so, what did your counterpart say?
Well, again, China receives about 50% of its energy needs from the Gulf, so there was a discussion of that, but these are economic talks. We're not the State Department. We're not defense minister to defense minister, so we talk more about the economic ramifications, and we encourage the Chinese. The Chinese have cut off exports of refined products and fertilizers, and we encourage them to be good international partners.
All right, guys.
So one more, if I can, just briefly.
Sorry, guys, we do have to get going right now. This is going to be the end for today.
Sorry, just briefly, I just wanted to ask, Mr. Secretary, sorry, you talked about the possibility of the president not going. Would you say now that basically as long as the war continues, that the commander-in-chief can't leave the country, can't go to China?
No, that's not what I said. I said if it is postponed. I said I was making it very clear that if it is postponed, the reason it would be postponed would not be because the president insisted on the Chinese taking an active role in the Strait of Hormuz.
Great. Thanks, guys. We appreciate it. Have a good
All right, that was Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent alongside the U.S. Trade Administrator, that is Jamieson Greer. And this is a post from Rapid Response 47 quoting Bessent saying if you look at longer dated crude, Future inflation expectations, they're both very well anchored. On the other side of this, the world will be safer and we will be better supplied. Again, any other news conferences we get coming in and out of that region, we will bring to you here on Live Now from Fox. Also want to remind you, coming up in a little over an hour at 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time, we expect to hear from President Trump as he hosts a news conference that'll take place right before the Trump Kennedy Center board meeting. We're going to bring that to you in full, not quite sure on the topic, if it's related to that or something else. Either way, you can watch it right here in full on Live Now from Fox. My name is Josh Breslow, and we are going to sneak away for a quick 2-minute commercial break, but so much more live coverage on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox, and I do want to take you out to a live event that is getting underway over in New York City right now with Reverend Al Sharpton as he's joined by elected officials to call on the city to save the Merchants House Museum after a historic Underground Railroad site was discovered there. Let's lift up the audio and listen in.
Ensure that Underground Railroad sites throughout New York City are appropriately preserved and to make sure they are honored.
Any other questions? How is that possible?
Great. That's great.
I guess we answered them all. The Merchant's House, that's why you're here. So I guess I want to thank you all, and we can take everyone upstairs for a tour of the hidden passageway, if you're interested.
Great.
And
Thank you. Thank you, Merchants. Yeah, thank you all.
You want to come upstairs and see? Okay. You're going to come back. All right.
All right, it looks like we caught the very tail end of that news conference. We'll, of course, rewind it for you and bring it to you a little bit later on. But what I want to do is actually head out to another event that looks as though it's popped up here. This is coming into our newsroom out of our Philadelphia station, and I believe this is all related to the Wawa Welcome America 2026 press conference taking place at the Center for Comcast Technology. Let's lift up the audio here and listen into this live news conference that is now underway.
Support during the events or behind the scenes throughout the festival. This time of year always gets us excited, and I want to thank wonderful Welcome America team, all of our festival partners attending today and supporting us, and to our partners at the city and Mayor Parker. We appreciate all that team is doing to set the stage for a fantastic free festival. Back to Michael. Thank you.
Thank you. Alongside Wawa's leadership and investment, we were able to put events together that put Philadelphia on a global stage and demonstrate what makes our festival one of the largest free festivals to be found anywhere in the country. So let's dive in, and let's take a look at some of the events that will be featured in this year's historic festival lineup. I am excited to share the return of tried and true festival programming that Philadelphians have come to know and love. First and foremost, it wouldn't be Wawa Welcome America without fireworks. And this year, our festival will feature 6 nights of fireworks, the most in our festival's history. Free museum days are back, as we make almost 50 museums and cultural institutions free throughout the festival. Now, this program is critical to our mission of removing economic barriers to access some of our city's most important cultural treasures. As part of our free museum program, I am also delighted to announce a brand new partnership with the Philadelphia Film Society, where over the course of our festival at multiple different Film Society locations, we will show 2 to 3 iconic Philly movies per day completely free. The movies will have a tie to Philadelphia, either being filmed here, based here, or produced by Philadelphia artists. In addition to free museums, we now have free movies. Here's a pro tip. It's a great way to beat the heat. Kidchella will return to Smith Memorial Playground, featuring the Pico stage and a dazzling, up-close and personal, kid-friendly fireworks show. Our tradition of delivering patriotic entertainment on the waterfront will return on the Saturday night before July 4th with a dazzling waterfront fireworks conclusion. Our Night Market Food Truck Festival will be back again. It will return to 5 Points in the Northeast with over 20 food trucks delivering flavors celebrating the vibrant culture, cuisine, and neighborhoods of the Northeast. In partnership with Historic Philadelphia and our Historic District cultural partners, Red, White, and Blue To Do will return with a day of family fun and entertainment and free giveaways, including our annual Children's Parade and our All-American Block Party presented by Bank of America. As Brian said, the most recognizable and certainly the most delicious day of the festival, Wawa Hoagie Day, will return, as Wawa says thank you to the men and women who serve our communities with thousands of free hoagies on the mall and a special performance this year by the United States Air Force Heritage of America Band. And of course, the return of our Salute to Independence semi-quincentennial parade. Now, I have to focus on this for a moment. It will be held on July 3rd this year. In years past, it's been on July 4th. It will be the largest parade Wawa Welcome America has ever done and will easily be one of the biggest parades the city of Philadelphia has ever done. Over 250 unique elements will be represented in this parade. Representation from all 50 states and American territories. Almost 10,000 individual people marching and celebrating in this historic moment of pomp, circumstance, and celebration. And of course, it wouldn't be an all-American parade without Miss America. And all 52 title holders will join Miss America in the parade. These women will represent the pride of their home state and the pride of our nation. We are so delighted to be joined today by Miss America 2026. Please join me in welcoming the reigning Miss America, Cassie Donegan.
Hello, everyone. It is so exciting to be here today, sharing this time with all of you as the proud daughter of a veteran of our United States Navy and many generations of those in our family who have served in our armed forces. It is such an honor and a privilege and a gift to get to serve as Miss America during such a special time for our country and to get to be a part of not only today, but the exciting festivities in July and to celebrate our great nation's 250th anniversary. Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more time for Miss America, Cassie Donegan. It is so hard to follow good performers like that, but I'm going to hold it together. Here we go. Okay. All right, so in addition to all of this incredible program, as always, there are some very new and exciting things to look forward to in this year's festival. Welcome America is proud to announce brand new this year, Philly Fair 250, a multi-day event that will be held in the most historically relevant location in our city, the Centennial District. Presented by Independence Blue Cross and bringing together Centennial District partners like the Please Touch Museum, the Schafuso House, Fairmount Park Conservancy, the Philadelphia Zoo, Philadelphia Parks and Recreation, and more. Make plans to join us for 3 continuous days of food, activations, and entertainment, including 13 food trucks representing each of the original 13 colonies, and a headline performance by Philadelphia's own Pink Sweats. You can take your experience to new heights with a giant aerial trapeze installation that you can try, and hot air balloon rides for families to enjoy. The weekend festivities will feature 2 nights of dazzling fireworks, one modern and one historic. And I'll leave it to your imagination to think what a historic fireworks show is. More to come on that. All done in partnership with the Science History Institute. On Monday, the festivities will continue with Jefferson Community Day, inviting families from across the city to enjoy an evening of activities, field games, and more. You know, with the eyes of the city and the world upon us, we take very seriously the task, if you will, of delivering a festival that not only entertains and inspires, but one that really brings to life all of the incredible artistic culture and entertainment of our city. And we do that by assembling a portfolio of world-class talent and punctuating our festival lineup with some of the biggest names in art, music, culture, and performance. And this year is no exception. Our Juneteenth block party will celebrate 50 years of the African American Museum in Philadelphia with a special headline performance by Philly's own DJ Jazzy Jeff. Our Celebration of Black Music Month event will return to the Dell Music Center and feature a headline performance by 6-time Grammy-nominated and 2-time Grammy Award-winning platinum recording artist and another Philly native, Eve, will join us at the Dell. And as always, we will light up the night sky with a dazzling fireworks show at the conclusion of that event. Once again, Concilio's Hispanic Fiesta will bring their annual day-long celebration of Latin and Hispanic food, music, dance, heritage, and culture to Love Park, and will feature a headline performance by 2-time Grammy Award-winning and 2-time Grammy-nominated and 4-time Grammy Award-winning Puerto Rican legendary performer Olga Tañón. One of the most rousing and inspiring events of our festival schedule, our annual Gospel on Independence concert, will return and will feature 2 incredible things. First, we will put on our stage a 250-voice gospel choir that is assembled from churches around the city. And we are delighted to announce that we will have a headline performer by, you ready for this? 33-time Grammy-nominated and 20-time Grammy Award-winning gospel and R&B legend Kirk Franklin will be with us. How does he carry all those Grammys around? For the first time ever, our festival will dedicate an entire event to celebrating June as Pride Month and honoring and commemorating the ongoing pursuit of freedom, liberty, and equality for the LGBTQ community. In partnership with Ensemble Arts, our Pride celebration will feature a free performance by the world-renowned Philadelphia Orchestra and will feature performances by LGBTQ artists and choirs from across the city. This event will be hosted by legendary DJ, author, recording artist, and drag icon, Trixie Mattel. I feel like I'm selling steak knives because, wait, there's more. The United States Army Field Band will return to Independence National Historic Park to perform their patriotic salute to service, presented by American Airlines and honoring our military and veteran community with a special headline performance by an actor, rapper, and legend with, frankly, too many awards and accolades to count. We will welcome the iconic Queen Latifah. And finally, on July 3rd, the Philly Pops will be back on Independence Mall on the eve of July 4th, bringing their classic Philly sound with a headline performance by the iconic voice known only as the Queen of Broadway, multi-platinum and Tony Award-winning singer Idina Menzel will be with us for Pops on Independence. July 3rd will certainly defy gravity, and we will be changed for good, right? But if you can believe it, we aren't done yet. For the past 2 years, Welcome America has been working alongside our friends at the National Constitution Center to plan and deliver a very, very special moment for our city, our nation, and frankly, the world. For the first time in over 20 years, I am proud and humbled to say that on July 3rd, our festival will welcome home the National Constitution Center and the return of the Liberty Medal. We couldn't be more humbled to have a ceremony of such recognition and esteem as the Liberty Medal be part of our festival lineup. To share more about their event and around this partnership, please join me in welcoming the interim president and CEO of the National Constitution Center, my good friend, Vince Stango.
All right, wanted to bring you those remarks there as we are listening in to the Wawa Welcome America announcement. Again, a lot of big names expected to be there at that event happening on June 3rd. It is 10:45 on the East Coast, 7:45 on the West Coast. My name is Josh Breslow, and you are taking a live look over the White House there on the right-hand side of your screen. As we remind you, coming up around 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time, we expect that we are going to be hearing from President Trump as he makes remarks ahead of the Trump Kennedy Center board meeting. We'll bring those to you here as soon as...
All right. As if you care, I just got off the phone with the IRS. See, I sold my house in December, and it was my understanding that I didn't need to include that in my return for a multitude of reasons, all of which apply to me. However, if I received a 1099-S, I would still have to file that regardless of whether those reasons applied to me or not. And my tax refund's been on hold for like 7 weeks now. So I'm hoping that's the issue. Has anybody else had anything holding up their tax refund situation? My one faithful companion who is still here. And it looks like we had somebody in YouTube comment. They might be gone. It's been 9 minutes. First comment of the day. Oh, so nothing much has changed, I see. Been a whole bunch of not much to write home about today.
Is here to help you move with it. So, whether you're buying, selling, holding, or planning.
Let's see if anything's going on in the news. They're talking about the weather on Newsmax, so that's a big signal that there ain't shit going on in the news. U.S. allies wary of joining Trump's Strait of Hormuz mission. Yeah, of course they are, because they're right next door to Iran. They're way higher risk than we are. Of course they are. Do I need to hear these people talking about it? No, I do not. I am looking for some news that might interest us, and I'm currently seeing nothing to write home about. What the hell? I am going to jump over here to Yahoo Finance because they're finally talking about something worthwhile. Relatively speaking, as in more than the other people, because nobody seems to have much of anything going on. That's still not much of anything.
Situation. Again, a bus stop fight there in the Atlanta suburb of Villa Rica. This is again over in Georgia. It looks like they are getting ready to speak here, so let's lift up the audio.
Family of 12-year-old killed in a
fight. It appears that they are still making those final preparations, but this should begin shortly. Again, the family of that 12-year-old who died after that fight, they're going to be speaking out alongside civil rights attorneys there. We're talking about Harry Daniels and Ben Crump. I can see several people lined up and ready to go. Again, it looks like they are getting the sound taken care of and getting everyone in place prior to this getting underway. It looks like this news conference is taking place inside of Mount Prospect Baptist Church. That is in a suburb of Atlanta where all of this did happen. It looks like it maybe happened around March 14th. Looking here to see, there is video of that fight that ultimately killed West. And as I mentioned, it's gone viral on social media. There have been different reports coming out locally in that area, but also nationally, as folks have shared it. There's been serious questions that are raised since the 12-year-old suffered repeated bullying, according to her family, since recently transferring to Mason Creek Middle School. In addition to the family, the news conference also featuring remarks from attorneys Daniels, Crump, and Griggs, after which they are expected to take questions.
Let me start by saying this, is that I don't think anybody here standing here today want to be here today, and myself included. This is not just a representation for me of a client, but also a representation of my family member. I was related to Jada. Family, we are cousins, Mom and I. On March 5th, these parents received news, information no parent want to receive about what happened to their child. An innocent 12-year-old who only wanted to go to school, Jada, who was subjected to things that children should never be subjected to my understanding, reports that some bullying before, and especially on the day in question. We got a video circulating, and you can see from Jada's position that she did not want to fight anybody. She was concerned about why this person bothered her. It's my understanding the person who she ultimately got into an altercation with was, 2 years older than her, in a higher grade. But we're not here to necessarily talk about that incident. We were here to talk about how this incident hopefully should have been avoided and how moving forward incidents like this don't occur. I'll be the first to tell you, and I think the attorneys over to my left will also tell you that we don't know everything. We do know we got a 12-year-old that should be here today, and we want to find out why she's not here. If it was some negligence by the school system, the bus driver, or anybody alike, or intentionals act, we don't know. We are currently seeking that information through different channels. Law firms, my law firm, as well as Crump Law Firm, as well as the Grant Law Firm, is working in connection to find out the answers. We could never, ever, in any capacity, get justice for the West family, because we can't go back in time and stop what happened that day. That's the only way we can.
Not to be insensitive, but you're not telling me anything I don't know. It's tragic, certainly. But I'm trying to stay on topic here, and we're here for money. Let's see what Schwab is saying.
Is going to clarify any of this for the market?
No, I think he's going to hype what's what his products can do, and that's going to be a big, bold future where machines take over, and people just relax and kick back. While I think there's certainly productivity to be had in AI.
I've got something very interesting. Oh. Looks like I'm by myself. All right. Well, I guess I don't have anything interesting. I'm out of here, guys. Nobody's watching anyway. Pretty big nothing day. Y'all have a good day. Peace, love, and hair grease. I will see y'all tomorrow.